Chapter 691. Very quickly, 1,000 strong men stood on the built arena. Yi Hao glanced at everyone's cultivation and realized that there were demon guards from the 3rd level to the 3rd level of the demon general. There were people of every level and their strength was uneven. However, they were generally around the 4th or 5th level of the demon guards. At least 90% of the people were demon guards. There were less than 10 people at the demon general level. However, when he thought about it, the Wang family only had a dozen demon generals back then. It was already not bad to be able to pick out 10 demon generals from the commoners. Then, the battle in the arena was about to start. Yi Hao was afraid that someone would accidentally get hurt, so he specially arranged for 100 first-level demon general warriors to protect the safety of the participants. Suddenly, the entire square became lively. There were sounds of fighting everywhere and the sound of weapons clashing could be heard. Basically, no one used any martial technique. Therefore, most people relied on brute force to fight their opponent. However, this was better for Yi Hao to distinguish the true strength of each person. The battle lasted until nighttime. Yi Hao looked at the arena and saw that there were still 1,000 people left. The weakest was a 6th-level demon guard and the strongest was a 3rd-level demon general. There were still only 10 demon general cultivators. Alright, you will be the warriors of the first city in the future. However, as warriors of the first city, the first requirement is to protect our city. The second requirement is to not be afraid of death. The third requirement is to be strong. Many of you are born and raised in the Castle of the Kings. You all know very well that the Castle of the Kings is just a city of the lowest level and can be bullied by others. Our duty is to protect the people of our city from being bullied by others. Every child can grow up happily and healthily. Every family will not be bullied by others. Of course, this is not easy to do. Therefore, we have to risk our lives to do it. Can you do it? Yi Hao stood on the arena and shouted loudly. He used his power to spread his voice so that everyone could hear him. Yi Hao's voice exploded in everyone's ears. Everyone's body trembled. Yes, everyone immediately shouted. They had originally thought that Yi Hao would definitely be like those family heads, recruiting people and buying horses just to satisfy his own selfish desires. Who would have thought that Yi Hao was actually thinking for the sake of the people in the city? One had to know that among these 1,000 people, almost all of them were from the Castle of the Kings. And in this Castle of the Kings, there must be their relatives. And if Yi Hao really did that, then they would naturally be grateful and agree wholeheartedly. We pay our respects to the Lord. Under someone's lead, 1,000 people knelt down in unison. If young Master Yi Hao can really do what he says, then we are willing to be your subjects. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from the crowd. Everyone, don't worry. I, Yi Hao, am a man of my word. In the near future, I will set up a law for the first city. Anyone who dares to bully others will be thrown into jail. Furthermore, as long as I have the resources, I will establish an academy so that everyone can cultivate again. Yi Hao knew very well that he who won the hearts of the people would win the world. And the first city would be his foundation. Naturally, this foundation had to be firmly established. Therefore, Yi Hao didn't mind making these promises for these people. Of course, Yi Hao would do so for Yi Hao. This was because the more united these people were, the more powerful his forces would be. We pay our respects to the Lord. After receiving Yi Hao's promise, the crowd seemed to see a beautiful future. This was because what Yi Hao had said was exactly what they wanted. At this moment, hundreds of thousands of people in the first city knelt down in unison and called out to Yi Hao. Clearly, they already regarded themselves as Yi Hao's subjects. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for completing the mission of subduing a city and subduing 1,000 subordinate. The host's level has increased by 3. You have obtained a chance to summon a military general. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for exceeding the requirements of the mission. The number of people's hearts has increased by more than 65. You have obtained a special gift pack. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The level before you is a level 8 Demon General. Activate. Yi Hao hadn't expected that there would be a special gift pack. This was really a pleasant surprise. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1,000 sets of Demon General Supreme Grade equipment. What? Yi Hao's heart was boiling with excitement when he heard about the first reward from the system. One had to know that the weapon he was using had been snatched from the Wang family head. It was only a Demon General Supreme Grade weapon. However, the system had given him 1,000 set. Furthermore, they were 1 grade higher than the Supreme Grade weapons. They were Supreme Grade weapons. Furthermore, the system had given him a complete set. There were 1,000 sets. Yi Hao suppressed the excitement in his heart and continued to listen to the system's voice. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a bottle of Demon Guard Aptitude Fluid. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a bottle of Demon Guard Strengthening Fluid. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 100,000 sets of Demon Guard Grade equipment. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a Demon Lord Grade military formation. The system is up to something. After Yi Hao saw the system's rewards, the excitement in his heart could no longer be expressed. Host, there's no need to be excited. This is the system's help for you to cancel all the soul points and resurrection points that you have obtained in the Myriad Kingdom continent. If you want to exchange for more things, the system won't be able to do it. I knew it. The system wouldn't be so generous all of a sudden. Hearing the system's words, Yi Hao instantly understood. However, Yi Hao didn't feel that he had suffered a loss. Instead, he felt that he had earned a lot. One had to know that the soul points and resurrection points that he had obtained in the Myriad Kingdom continent could at most summon a few Demon Guard grade powerhouses. But now, the system had given him 1,000 sets of Demon General grade equipment and 100,000 sets of Demon Guard grade equipment. One had to know that even in the Myriad Kingdom continent, a divine weapon couldn't compare to a Demon Guard grade weapon in the ancient demon realm. What are these strengthening fluid and aptitude fluid? Yi Hao immediately looked at the 2 items that the system had rewarded him with. Strengthening fluid. The dosage can be used by 100,000 people. It can strengthen the body strength of demon guards below the Demon Guard realm, as well as their strength. Usage, 1 drop per person. Aptitude fluid. The dosage can be used by 100,000 people. It can increase a person's aptitude. It can be used by demon guards and ordinary people. After using it, it can increase the aptitude to the Demon Guard peak realm. So these 2 are the real treasures. After Yi Hao looked at the strengthening fluid and aptitude fluid, he immediately exclaimed. One had to know that the reason why these commoners were bullied was because they didn't have strength. The reason why they didn't have strength was because they didn't have enough aptitude and couldn't cultivate, or their bodies were naturally weak and couldn't cultivate. And this strengthening fluid and aptitude fluid was simply a blessing for those commoners who couldn't cultivate. Although it could only increase the aptitude to the Demon Guard peak realm, it was already considered pretty good at the moment. After all, no one could eat until they became fat. Chapter 692. Most importantly, there were enough of them. They could be used by 100,000 people. The first city only had a population of 400,000 to 500,000. Excluding the old, the weak, the sick and the disabled, as well as those who were not sincere in joining them. 100,000 bottles of strengthening elixir and aptitude elixir were enough for the youths of the first city to use. If they were equipped with 100,000 sets of armor, they would be the masters of 100,000 powerful cultivators. Other things aside, they could sweep through as many cities as the first city as they wanted. Everyone, since you want to protect our home, do you want to contribute? Yi Hao naturally wanted to use all the good things he had obtained. Otherwise, no matter how good the things were, they would be trash if they were not used. Everyone immediately tensed up when they heard Yi Hao's words. They were wondering if Yi Hao was going to use sweet words to coax them and reveal his true colors now. Could it be that he was going to squeeze them dry like those other families? When he saw the worried expressions on everyone's faces, Yi Hao immediately explained, "What I mean is, do you all want to become cultivators and protect our home?" Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when they heard Yi Hao's words. However, they immediately started to clamor again. "My lord, it's not that we don't want to become cultivators. It's just that we don't have enough aptitude. We can't cultivate at all." "That's right, my lord. Although my aptitude is all right, my physique is too weak. I can't cultivate at all. I can cultivate, but my physique is too weak. I can't advance any further after becoming a first-level demon guard." Sighs could be heard from below. Everyone's tone was filled with helplessness. After all, they were living in a world where the strong were respected. If they wanted to live a good life, and protect their families, they had to have enough power. Otherwise, they would live in fear every day. They would be worse than pigs and dogs, and they would be bullied and squeezed dry by others. However, they were helpless because their aptitude was too weak. They were born with no fate to cultivate. It was not that there was no way to change their aptitude and physique. However, they would need to purchase pills to solve the problem. However, things like medicinal pellets were not things that people like them could extravagantly request. The cost of pills was too high and they were expensive. They also needed alchemists to refine them. Therefore, even the lowest grade of medicinal pills were not something they could afford. Therefore, only the disciples of rich families, clans, and sects could enjoy such pills. They could only be envious. This was because most people would not be able to purchase a single pill in their entire lives. Hearing the commotion below, Yi Hao revealed a smile. "Everyone, I have something that can change your aptitude and physique, but it can only allow you to reach the peak of the demon guard." "What? My lord, are you serious about this?" "Let alone reaching the pinnacle of the demon guard, I'm even willing to become a first-rank demon guard." "My lord, you must have very few pills in your hands. Tell us, do you want us to compete or do something else? We're willing to do anything." Hearing this, everyone rubbed their palms together. After all, this was an opportunity. An opportunity to become a cultivator. However, everyone knew that the thing in Yi Hao's hand was probably a pill. However, it was impossible for Yi Hao to have too many of those pills. At most, he would only have a few thousand, and that would be too much. At this moment, everyone wanted to fight for this opportunity. Yi Hao gestured for everyone to quieten down. Seeing that everyone's eyes were sparkling, Yi Hao said, "There's no need to compete." "What? No need to compete? Don't tell me we can get pills for free. Furthermore, there are so many of us here. My lord, you can't be biased." When the crowd heard Yi Hao's words, they all looked at Yi Hao with longing. "Of course we won't get them for free. All you need to do is join the second army of the first city and swear eternal loyalty to me. If you can fight for me and the first city without fear of death, I will change your aptitude and physique. Furthermore, I will bestow upon you a set of equipment." Once Yi Hao had finished speaking, he pulled out a set of demon guard equipment. It was a set of pitch-black armor, a helmet, combat boots, and a longsword. The moment this set of equipment was taken out, it attracted everyone's attention. Even the 1,000 people who were standing in the arena were staring at the equipment in Yi Hao's hands with feverish eyes. They were almost drooling. This was because the appearance of this set of equipment looked very domineering. It made one's blood boil just by looking at it. It made one want to put it on and conquer the world. This is the best equipment for demon guards." At this moment, the only level 3 demon general cultivator immediately exclaimed, "What? The best equipment for demon guards?" Everyone was shocked. Even if they were not cultivators, they knew how precious this equipment was. It was definitely more expensive than pills. This was also why the castle of the king sold pills, but did not sell weapons or equipment. This was because the cost of manufacturing and forging of equipment were more expensive than pills. A small castle of the king's could not afford a shop that sold equipment and weapons. This set of equipment will cost at least 100 lower spirit coins. Dream on. This is the best equipment for demon guards. It can be said to be a lower spirit general equipment. Furthermore, it's a complete set. Is this really for us? If so, I'm willing to risk my life to follow the Lord. At this moment, hundreds of thousands of people were impressed by the equipment in Yi Hao's hands. Even the 1,000 people were drooling as they looked at the equipment in Yi Hao's hands. But I have another request. Right at this moment, Yi Hao spoke abruptly. He does have a request. When the crowd heard Yi Hao, they were not surprised. After all, this was a complete set of the best equipment for demon guards. There was also a chance to become a cultivator. How could it be so easy to obtain? At this moment, everyone was looking at Yi Hao with rapt attention. My request is for the elderly. I don't want children, women, or those with physical disabilities. Is this a request? Is this still a request? When they heard Yi Hao's words, everyone was excited. One had to know that even if there weren't 100,000 people present, there were at least 80,000 who met Yi Hao's requirements. However, Yi Hao's relaxed request made them feel that it was a little unrealistic. Moreover, could Yi Hao really provide so many pills and equipment? Although the crowd felt that it was unrealistic, they were still attracted by the equipment in Yi Hao's hands. They wanted to rely on luck and see if they could be the lucky one. My lord, if I may be so bold as to ask, is this really the only requirement? How many people do you want to recruit? Will the equipment be given out on the spot? A bold person immediately stood up and asked the question on everyone's mind. As long as you swear loyalty to me on the spot, your aptitude and physique will be improved immediately. Moreover, the equipment will be given out on the spot. As for the quota. Chapter 693. There are only 100,000 slots. Yi Hao saw that the crowd was looking at him eagerly. He did not keep them in suspense and directly told them the number. What? 100,000? Did I hear wrongly? Are you sure it's not 10? My lord is not joking. He's probably making fun of us. 100,000? Where can my lord find 100,000 demon guards' supreme-grade armor? That's the Demon King's supreme-grade armor. It's not ordinary armor. I must have heard wrongly. I must. Yi Hao's words were like a sudden clap of thunder that exploded in everyone's ears. The crowd's first reaction was that they had heard wrongly or that Yi Hao was joking. It was impossible. Everyone, time is precious. First come, first serve. Let's start now. Yi Hao ignored the discussion below and said directly. He knew that the number he had mentioned was indeed shocking, but it was true. Since it was true, there was no need to explain. In the end, it would naturally prove that what he had said was true. However, Yi Hao was not overly hasty. After all, this was the first time he had gathered so many people in the ancient demon's territory. Everything else was secondary. As long as they were loyal, that was the most important. Yi Hao did not want to spend a large amount of resources only to end up grooming either deserters or traitors. Me, I'll do it. Don't push, I want one too. When they heard Yi Hao's words, the crowd did not care if it was true or not and immediately began to push forward. Whoever wants to push will be expelled from the first city. The first city will never recruit them into the army, Yi Hao said in a deep voice as he looked at the crowd. His tone was so authoritative that no one dared to disobey. When they heard Yi Hao's words, the crowd did not dare to push and they consciously lined up. I, Wang Matzi, swear to be loyal to the first city forever. I swear to be loyal to the Lord. If I disobey, my soul will be destroyed. Immediately, a young man walked up to the arena and knelt at Yi Hao's feet as he swore. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for recruiting an ordinary person. Loyalty level, 90. Hearing the system's notification, Yi Hao nodded his head. Indeed, the people of the ancient demon domain placed great importance on oaths. One had to know that once one's loyalty reached 80, they would not betray him. Once one's loyalty reached 90, they would definitely risk their lives for him. You're not bad. Get up. Yi Hao ordered Wang Matzi. Hearing Yi Hao's order, Pockmark Wang looked at Yi Hao nervously and expectantly. As for the crowd below, they all looked at Yi Hao nervously. They wanted to see if Yi Hao would keep his word and speak the truth. If Yi Hao could really raise Pockmarked Wang's aptitude, strengthen Pockmarked Wang's physique, and give him the equipment, then they would definitely pledge allegiance to Yi Hao. But if Yi Hao did not do so, they would definitely scatter like birds and beasts. After all, who would dare to follow a person who didn't keep his word? Yi Hao looked at Pockmarked Wang's expectant eyes and took out 2 white jade gourds from his space. Yi Hao used his power to control them and took out 2 drops of liquid. Open your mouth! Yi Hao looked at Pockmarked Wang, who was in a daze, and shouted. After being shouted at by Yi Hao, Pockmarked Wang trembled in fear, but he still opened his mouth obediently. Yi Hao directly sent the strengthening liquid and aptitude liquid into Pockmarked Wang's mouth. At this moment, everyone's eyes were on Pockmarked Wang. Hot, so hot. It hurts. Hot. At this moment, Pockmarked Wang suddenly lay on the ground and wailed. But no one was surprised because they had all heard that the process of taking pills to strengthen one's body and change one's aptitude was very painful. But to become a cultivator, this was a process that one had to go through. Although they didn't understand why Yi Hao didn't use pills but liquid, they didn't care. They just wanted to see if Pockmarked Wang's aptitude and physique could be changed. While everyone waited anxiously, Pockmarked Wang finally recovered. Pockmarked Wang sensed the surrounding air and suddenly said with a smile, "I can feel the power in the air. I dare say that my body is absorbing this power. Although it's very little, it is indeed becoming stronger." Pockmarked Wang's words immediately ignited everyone. Although Pockmarked Wang could only absorb a little, that was normal. Pockmarked Wang didn't have a cultivation technique. If he had one, he would definitely improve rapidly. Use this cultivation technique. In order to test Pockmarked Wang's aptitude and to give everyone a greater shock, Yi Hao took out a cultivation technique. Yi Hao directly took out an embarrassing cultivation technique and handed it to Pockmarked Wang. This cultivation method was taken from a family. To him, it was completely useless because he needed to level up by killing monsters. But to Pockmarked Wang, it was a treasure. If it weren't for Yi Hao, he wouldn't have been able to come into contact with cultivation techniques in his lifetime. "Thank you, my lord." Pockmarked Wang immediately took the cultivation technique. Perhaps because his aptitude had been improved, Pockmarked Wang quickly read through the cultivation technique. Pockmarked Wang sat on the spot and began to cultivate. No one rushed him. Instead, they looked anxiously at Pockmarked Wang to see if he could cultivate. After a while, Pockmarked Wang's aura suddenly changed. The aura of a rank 1 demon guard was revealed. "Ha ha ha, I'm a rank 1 demon guard. I'm also a cultivator. Ha!" After breaking through, Pockmarked Wang jumped up in excitement. Then, Pockmarked Wang knelt at Yi Hao's feet and returned the cultivation technique to Yi Hao. "Thank you, my lord. I will go through fire and water for you without hesitation." "Good, you must cultivate diligently and reach the peak of the demon guard realm soon." Yi Hao took back the cultivation technique and encouraged Pockmarked Wang. "This set of equipment belongs to you. I hope you can wear it soon and conquer the first city." Yi Hao took out a set of equipment and handed it to Pockmarked Wang. "No way, he's really giving it to him. I want it too. This kid has struck it rich. And this kid has already become a cultivator. I'm so envious." At this moment, everyone was looking at Pockmarked Wang enviously. "He's really giving it to me." Pockmarked Wang looked at the set of equipment in front of him and asked in disbelief. "I'm a man of my word. I'm not lying. Yi Hao's tone was full of dignity. No one dared to doubt him. Hearing Yi Hao's words, pockmarked Wang took the equipment excitedly and couldn't wait to put it on. How do you feel? Yi Hao inquired. I feel that no demon guard below rank 5 is a match for me, pockmarked Wang said as he put on the equipment. One had to know that this was definitely a bold statement. Every cultivator, even if there was a difference of 1 rank, the difference was like heaven and earth. Pockmarked Wang had just broken through and was only a rank 1 demon guard. Yet, he dared to say that he would have no problem challenging a rank 5 demon guard. This was definitely because the equipment gave him enough confidence. Chapter 694. He's already so arrogant after breaking through to the 1st level. He even dares to threaten a 5th level demon guard. Even if that's a piece of top-quality demon guard equipment, it shouldn't be that exaggerated. Everyone clearly didn't believe pockmark Wang's words. You exchange a few moves with him, Yi Hao said as he pointed to a 5th level demon guard soldier. He also wanted to see how powerful the top-quality demon guard equipment was. Yes. Hearing Yi Hao's command, a 5th level demon guard soldier immediately stepped forward. I won't show any mercy. That 5th level demon guard soldier was staring at pockmark Wang's equipment covetously. Come at me. As long as you beat me, I'll give you my equipment, pockmark Wang said confidently. You said it yourself. That soldier's eyes lit up when he heard pockmark Wang's words. He charged at pockmark Wang. That soldier was circulating a robust power in his hands. It was obvious that he was going all out. Logically speaking, he wouldn't even bother to make a move against a 1st level demon guard. However, he believed that since pockmark Wang dared to say that, it meant that pockmark Wang's equipment was definitely very powerful. Since pockmark Wang had actually boasted, he naturally wouldn't waste this opportunity. He had to go all out to defeat pockmark Wang and obtain pockmark Wang's equipment. However, pockmark Wang stood where he was, not moving at all. He felt like he had just received the greatest provocation. He directly bombarded pockmark Wang's armor. Boom! When his fist landed on the armor, a loud crash was heard. However, pockmark Wang only took a few steps back. He wasn't injured at all. On the other hand, the 5th level demon guard soldier who had attacked pockmark Wang immediately felt like his arm wasn't his anymore. I admit defeat. That 5th level demon guard soldier was rather straightforward. He knew that pockmark Wang would be in an undefeatable position with this set of equipment. No matter how he attacked, it would just be a waste of energy. Although he still coveted pockmark Wang's equipment, there was nothing he could do. It's indeed top-quality demon guard equipment. It's really powerful. It actually works. A 5th level demon guard is actually unable to harm a 1st level demon guard. If he wears this equipment, won't he be invincible within the same level? Everyone looked at this scene in shock. Their eyes were burning with desire as they looked at Wang Matzi. At this moment, Wang Matzi became the most dazzling person. Everyone looked at Wang Matzi with envy. In the beginning, he was just an ordinary person. Now, he had become a level 1 demon guard cultivator and even obtained his first set of demon guard top-grade equipment. My lord, I want to enlist in the army and join the 2nd Legion. I also want to join the army and join the 2nd unit. At this moment, no one doubted the authenticity of Yi Hao's words anymore. One by one, they rushed to speak first, afraid that they would miss this opportunity. Because until now, they still believed that Yi Hao wouldn't have too much equipment. All of you, come and take control of the situation. Yi Hao felt that it was too troublesome to come one by one, so he directly ordered the 1st level demon generals. Everyone, there's no need to squeeze. 1,000 people will take the oath at once. As long as you take the oath, you can become a soldier of the 2nd Legion, Yi Hao said loudly. Immediately, 1,000 people rushed out and swore to Yi Hao. As long as the oath was taken and their loyalty reached the standard, Yi Hao would distribute the aptitude elixirs, strengthening elixirs, and equipment. Although there were 1,000 people taking the oath each time, there were still a lot of people. After all, Yi Hao had subdued 100,000 soldiers. The closer it was to the end, the more shocked everyone became. How many sets of equipment have been distributed? There should be at least 50,000 sets. Could it be that the Lord has ransacked some crafting sect? Did you see that? Those are all top-grade demon guard equipment. So many of them are of the same grade. Looks like our first city is going to rise. Those who didn't receive any equipment looked at the 50,000 people in shock. They were already fully equipped and sitting on the ground to cultivate. Everyone was filled with envy and anticipation. They wanted to quickly receive their equipment so that they could become cultivators as soon as possible. Yi Hao busied himself until the afternoon of the second day before he managed to gather 100,000 soldiers. At this moment, the 100,000 soldiers had already changed into their equipment. Each of them looked valiant and radiated an imposing aura. Moreover, many of them had already become cultivators of the first and second level of the Demon Guard after a night of training. In just a short night, the power of the aptitude elixirs and strengthening elixirs could be seen. From now on, you will be the Second Legion. The Second Legion will be divided into 100 small teams. Each team has 1,000 people and will be led by a first-level Demon Guard warrior. Yi Hao ordered the 100,000 soldiers below him. Yes. Hearing Yi Hao's order, the 100,000 soldiers shouted in unison. Their voices soared to the sky. At this moment, their worship and loyalty to Yi Hao had reached a peak. This was because Yi Hao had changed their lives and made them cultivators and real men. Moreover, Yi Hao was so domineering. He had taught each of them cultivation techniques and equipped them with top-grade Demon Guard equipment. Who wouldn't be grateful to Yi Hao? Even the ordinary people's loyalty to Yi Hao had reached a peak. This was because the 100,000 soldiers that Yi Hao had recruited would definitely have their relatives. Go and select your own soldiers first, then bring them down for training. After a period of time, I will personally assess them. Yi Hao directly instructed the 100 first-level demon generals. At this moment, each of these 100 first-level demon generals had 1,000 men under their command. They couldn't help but straighten their backs, feeling great pressure. However, Yi Hao was full of confidence in these people. After all, there was no need to doubt the loyalty of the 100,000 soldiers to begin with. Moreover, the general strength of the soldiers was on the low side now. These first-level demon generals were enough to suppress everyone. Moreover, they could also guide these people in their cultivation and strive to maximize the effects of the aptitude elixirs and strengthening elixirs so that each of them could break through to the peak of the Demon Guard realm as soon as possible. Soon, the small groups of 1,000 people left the first city one after another. Because the first city was too small, it wasn't enough for these people to train. They could only be brought to the wilderness to train. After seeing these people leave, Yi Hao felt great pressure. This was because an additional 100,000 soldiers was equivalent to an additional 100,000 mouths. These people needed to eat and drink. Fortunately, after subduing so many families, there was still enough food and drink for a short period of time. All of you, follow me. Yi Hao looked at the 1,000 people who had successfully challenged the arena. At this moment, each and every one of them was looking at him pitifully. Yi Hao knew that these people were still eyeing the armor of the 100,000 soldiers. Although Yi Hao had better armor for them, Yi Hao definitely wouldn't give it to them so easily. Chapter 695. Do you all want the equipment worn by 100,000 soldiers? Yi Hao asked the thousands of soldiers when they arrived at the nearest entrance to the magical beast forest in the first city. Yes. Everyone shouted with all their might, proving how much they desired that set of equipment. Even if you want it, you don't have it. I only have 100,000 sets at the moment and they are all glowing, Yi Hao said. When everyone heard Yi Hao's words, they couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. Finally, someone said, "My lord, why are we stronger than them? Why do they have such good equipment while we don't?" "Good. Well said. Since you are stronger than them, I want you to always be stronger than them." Hearing this person's words, Yi Hao smiled and took out a set of top-grade demon general equipment. Everyone was instantly attracted by the equipment in Yi Hao's hands. They realized that the equipment in Yi Hao's hands was definitely much better than the equipment worn by the 100,000 soldiers. "What grade of equipment is this? Don't tell me this is a piece of demon general equipment. I think it's at least superior demon general equipment. But is this for us?" Everyone exclaimed as they looked at the equipment in Yi Hao's hands. The discomfort in their hearts was swept away. If Yi Hao wasn't their lord, they probably wouldn't have shown any mercy and would have snatched it from him. "This is demon general equipment," Yi Hao said softly. "What demon general equipment?" Everyone exclaimed when they heard Yi Hao's words. "That's right. I specially prepared this equipment for the First Legion." When everyone heard Yi Hao's words, they became excited. They looked at the equipment in Yi Hao's hands and salivated. "However, the First Legion only nurtures the strong. We don't want trash. Furthermore, only the strong can have this equipment." "My lord is right." Everyone quickly agreed when they heard Yi Hao's words. Even they wouldn't be willing to give this set of equipment to weaklings, let alone Yi Hao. However, when everyone looked at their own cultivations, they instantly felt that they had no fate with this equipment. Their strength was simply too weak, and they weren't worthy of such good equipment. "Therefore, I will give you a test. As long as you pass, you will be part of the First Legion and these equipment will belong to you," Yi Hao continued. "My lord, what is the test?" Everyone looked at Yi Hao expectantly. At this moment, not only did they want the equipment, but they also wanted the glory of being part of the First Legion. If he could become a member of the First Legion, he would definitely bring glory to his family. After entering this forest, those who can survive for 10 days will become members of the First Legion and will be able to obtain equipment. This was something that Yi Hao had thought about a long time ago. He wanted to create a special troop, a troop that was fearless. However, there couldn't be too many people in this troop. Because if there were too many people, it would be a burden to this troop, and it wouldn't achieve the effect he wanted. Therefore, Yi Hao set the number at 1,000. However, the current strength of these people was still too weak. Moreover, they had not truly experienced the tempering of life and death. Only those who had experienced the tempering of life and death would be able to truly grow. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the mission to create a King's Mentor. Mission 1. Within 10 days, raise the average strength of 1,000 people in the First Legion to the 8th level. Mission completion will reward 2,000 upgrade pills and 1,000 demon general upgrade pills. What? Break through to the 8th level of Demon Guard. Yi Hao was also somewhat surprised. He didn't expect to obtain another mission. However, it seemed that this mission was somewhat difficult. Right now, most of the people's strength was at the 5th level of Demon Guard. To raise these people to the 8th level of Demon Guard in just 10 days was undoubtedly quite difficult. However, it wasn't that there was no hope, because among these 1,000 people, there were many Demon Guards at the 5th level and above. However, on average, everyone's strength should be at the 6th level of Demon Guard and above. In other words, in these 10 days, as long as each person could raise 2 levels. Enter the forest for 10 days as long as we survive? So simple? Hearing Yi Hao's conditions, everyone couldn't help but be surprised. Because this was only the periphery of the forest, there wouldn't be any powerful demon beasts at all. It was already not bad to have a demon general level demon beast. And as long as it was a demon general level demon beast, everyone joining hands would absolutely slaughter it instantly. Simple? Hearing everyone's words, Yi Hao sneered in his heart. He let these people enter the forest for these few days to let them experience life and death, and not let them have a picnic, Actually, they thought it was that simple. Here are 1,000 healing pills. It can be said to be life-saving medicinal pills. You all have to keep it well. Yi Hao directly took out the healing pills he obtained from the Cloud Pill Pavilion and handed them to everyone. Everyone didn't dare to be careless because what Yi Hao said was right. Healing pills were absolutely life-saving medicinal pills. If they didn't suffer too severe injuries, they would definitely be as good as new after consuming the healing pills. Each Demon Guard powerhouse, Yi Hao gave a Demon Guard level healing pill respectively. As for those 10 Demon Generals, Yi Hao gave each of them a Demon General level healing pill. This was because the Demon Guard level healing pill had no effect on them at all. These are aptitude pills, strengthening pills, marrow cleansing pills, and recovery pills. Take them now. Yi Hao took out all the medicinal pills he had obtained from the Cloud Pill Pavilion. He believed that with the help of these medicinal pills, there would be a higher chance of completing the mission given to him by the system. Everyone received the pills delightedly. That was because they realized that at the very least, the pills that they had received were more than what the Second Army had. Everyone knew that these medicinal pills would be of great help to them. This was because most people had already reached a bottleneck in their cultivation. But with these medicinal pills, the bottleneck was no longer a bottleneck. You all can choose your cultivation techniques and martial technique. I will only give you 5 days to cultivate. Yi Hao watched as everyone consumed the medicinal pills. To Yi Hao's delight, many people actually broke through to the next realm directly. This was definitely a good sign for Yi Hao. Yi Hao took out all the cultivation techniques and martial techniques that he had obtained from those clans from the infinite space. Upon hearing Yi Hao's order, everyone began to choose their cultivation techniques and martial technique. They formed groups of 3 to 5 and started to discuss and share their own opinions. Then, one by one, they began to cultivate. Some of them began to learn martial technique. Yi Hao watched everyone cultivate in an orderly manner and nodded his head in satisfaction. Wait for me. Yi Hao couldn't help but call out. The Purple Sky Supreme Being was still suffering from the Earth Demon Black Gas. Given his current strength, he still couldn't compete with the Cloud Pill sect. Therefore, he could only develop his strength. Fortunately, the system had told him that as long as he found the antidote within 2 years, the Purple Sky Supreme Being and the others would be fine. However, Yi Hao was more worried about ZMO. After all, the ancient demon's territory was full of danger and ZMO was all alone. How could he not be worried? Chapter 696. I reckon that the 10,000 Kingdoms continent is about to be unified. Yi Hao looked at the sky. However, with his parents and so many generals in control of the 10,000 Kingdoms continent, Yi Hao believed that nothing would happen. Yi Hao retracted his thoughts and looked at the First Legion that was cultivating. It seems that I should take action. Yi Hao walked towards the interior of the forest alone. It seems that there are indeed no magical beasts in the periphery. Yi Hao walked in the forest and discovered that there were only a few magical beasts. Moreover, they were all demon guards of the 1st and 2nd rank. They were of no use at all. Yi Hao's goal was to drive the magical beasts away and let them attack the First Legion. He wanted to use the magical beasts to train the First Legion. This was because Yi Hao had always believed that only soldiers who had experienced the tempering of life and death were qualified soldiers. Moreover, only after experiencing the tempering of life and death could a person grow. Moreover, the First Legion could also use the magical beasts to train their martial skills, attack ability and reaction ability. Yi Hao searched for magical beasts along the way but did not find any groups of magical beasts. This was because in order to train the First Legion, they could not have magical beasts that were too strong or too weak. Moreover, it had to be a group of magical beasts. Otherwise, it would not be able to achieve the effect of a group battle. Forget it, I'll leave this matter to you. After searching for a long time, Yi Hao was too lazy to look and directly released the Green Wolf King and 20 green wolves. After receiving Yi Hao's instructions, the Green Wolf King immediately led the pack of wolves and dashed out. In a short while, more than a dozen magical beasts were chased back. They were all demon guards of the 6th and 7th rank. Yi Hao nodded in satisfaction. This Green Wolf King was indeed worthy of being the overlord of the low-level magical beasts. Its efficiency was indeed formidable. These dozen or so magical beasts were still a little restless at first. However, under the pressure of Yi Hao's Demon King aura, they all prostrated themselves on the ground and did not dare to move. Yi Hao had nothing to do, so he took out the second-rank military formation that the system had rewarded him with. Military formation, as the name implied, was a formation used by the army. Moreover, military formations were very mysterious. Not only were they unpredictable, but most importantly, they could increase the overall combat ability of an army. Of course, in order to use a powerful military formation well, the most important thing was the tacit cooperation between all the soldiers. What Yi Hao had was a second-grade military formation. As long as he used it well, he could let Demon General-level troops fight against Demon King-level troops. And this second-rank military formation could allow demon generals to be invincible within the same rank, crushing any troops of the same rank. If Yi Hao's 1,000-man team encountered another 1,000-man team of the same level, as long as they used their military formations properly, then Yi Hao's 1,000-man team would definitely be able to crush the other party. Furthermore, as long as it wasn't the other party and the difference in their cultivation levels was too great, they would still be able to put up a fight. Of course, there were also requirements for using this array. That was, more than half of the people using it had to be at least at the Demon General level or above. Otherwise, the formation would not be able to be used at all. Furthermore, it would not be effective at all. This array formation is not bad. Yi Hao looked at the second-grade array formation. There were only 5 arrays. Among these 5 arrays there were offensive and defensive ones. There were even arrays that could increase the speed of escape. However, Yi Hao took a look at one of the arrays. Life and Death Array. After using the array formation, it could share the lives of all the soldiers. At the same time, it could also share everyone's offensive power. It could condense the defensive power of many people into one person, and it could also condense the offensive power of many people into one person. This array formation was exactly what Yi Hao wanted, because with this array formation, it could truly integrate the 1,000-man team together and play the role of sharing life and death together. Moreover, the power of this array formation was also very terrifying. Just think about it. Sharing everyone's lives meant that the array formation would only be broken if 1,000 people were killed together. If 1,000 people could not be killed at the same time, then with the shared lives, no one would die. Furthermore, it could also condense the defensive and offensive power of many people into one person. Wouldn't that be a tyrannical abuse of cultivators of the same level? For example, the enemy had a level 1 demon general, while Yi Hao's side had 3 level 1 demon generals, condensing all their strength into one person. How would the enemy have the strength to resist? Yi Hao immediately started to study this life and death array. When there was time, he would integrate this array into the army. Yi Hao believed that as long as this array was integrated into the army, the combat power would increase by more than one level. Ding dong! Does the host want to learn the life and death array? Just as Yi Hao was about to study the array formation, the system suddenly sounded. Hearing the notification, Yi Hao was delighted. I didn't expect the system to be able to learn even this. However, since it could be learned directly, Yi Hao naturally did not want to waste his time and effort. He nodded. Learn. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for learning the second-grade life and death array. It can be used in Demon General Troop. Requirements: the troops have to cooperate well. At least half of them have to be Demon General and above. It seems that the revolution has yet to succeed if I want to use this array. Comrade, You still have to work hard. Yi Hao sighed. Currently, his strongest first army had an average strength of level 6 demon guards. Only a dozen of them had reached the level of demon general. As for the second army, there was no need to talk about it. Although there were 100 level 1 demon general warriors, it was just right to use this array. However, these people already had important positions. Each of them had 1,000 subordinates under their control. At this time, it was obviously unrealistic to draw out these 100 people to train the array. Unknowingly, the sky had already darkened. Yi Hao looked at the demonic beasts around him. There were already close to 100 of them. The average strength of these demonic beasts was level 6 or level 7. There were also a few that were level 9 or level 10 demon guard. In just half a day, he had already gotten so many demonic beasts. He was already very satisfied. Yi Hao believed that these 100 demonic beasts were definitely enough to make the first army suffer. However, Yi Hao felt that this was far from enough. However, there were still 4 days left. Yi Hao was not anxious at all. These demonic beasts, because of the suppression of Yi Hao's aura, all of them looked at Yi Hao in fear. They did not dare to act recklessly. Yi Hao resisted the urge to kill these demonic beasts in his heart. Because these demonic beasts were all experience points. However, Yi Hao guessed that now that he had reached level 8 demon general, even if he killed these demon guards, he probably would not gain much experience points. This was because Yi Hao realized that it was getting harder and harder for him to level up in this ancient demon domain. This was because as long as he leveled up, the experience points he gained from killing creatures of a lower realm would greatly decrease. Chapter 697. However, in terms of magical beasts, he had the Green Wolf King to help him. Therefore, Yi Hao could do something else, and that was alchemy. Yi Hao had previously snatched Deacon Zhang's ring and discovered that there was a large amount of spiritual herbs inside. Most importantly, there were a few alchemy recipes. I'll refine you. Yi Hao checked the recipe and decided to refine the healing pill in the end. Because the first city had just been established, there would definitely be continuous wars in the future. There would definitely be many wars. And as long as there were wars, there would be casualties. And if there was a healing pill, it could save the lives of soldiers at critical moments. Yi Hao took out the cauldron that he had picked up at the Cloud Pill Pavilion and placed the spiritual herbs inside according to the recipe. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for refining the pill. The host has received 1 experience point. Congratulations to the host for advancing to a demon guard alchemist. I've advanced? Yi Hao was a little surprised. He had originally thought that his alchemy level was still at the level of the Myriad Kingdom continent. It would take some effort to advance to the Demon Guard Alchemist level to advance to the Demon Guard Alchemist level, but he really did not expect that he would be able to advance by only refining the pill once, and it was a failure. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for obtaining the mission to refine 3,000 pills within 4 days. If the mission is successful, you will be able to draw one of the 108 deviant flames. What? The deviant flames have appeared. Yi Hao could not help but be surprised. Deviant flames only existed in novels. He did not expect that they would actually exist. According to the novels, there were some deviant flames in this vast world. Perhaps it was the flame in the center of a meteorite that fell from the sky, or perhaps it was the lava in the depths of a volcano that had been refined for thousands of years. These deviant flames were definitely of great use to alchemists. Not only could it increase the success rate of refining pills, but it could also improve the quality of the pills. Most importantly, the deviant flames could also be used to attack. It was just that Yi Hao did not know how powerful the deviant flames, which were very powerful in novels, would be in the ancient demon territory. However, Yi Hao believed that since the system wanted to reward him, it meant that the deviant flames would definitely not be too bad. Otherwise, why did the system not reward him when he was in the 10,000 Kingdoms continent? It could only mean that his constitution was not strong enough. That was because the heavenly flame was extremely violent. If one's body was too weak, not to mention subduing the heavenly flame, one's body would likely be instantly burned into nothingness by the heavenly flame. Bring my 3,000 elixirs. Yi Hao looked at the alchemy cauldron in front of him, his heart filled with excitement. After all, this was 3,000 pills. If it was an ordinary alchemist, they would probably vomit blood. This was a mission that simply could not be completed. That was because those alchemists couldn't guarantee that every batch of pills they concocted would definitely succeed. However, he was different. With the system, no matter how difficult the problem was, he could basically solve it. Although 3,000 elixir pills was indeed a huge number, Yi Hao believed that he would definitely be able to refine 3,000 elixir pills if he continued to refine them day and night. Due to the cauldron, only 5 portions of herbs could be placed in the cauldron at a time. This was something that Yi Hao could do nothing about at the moment. Yi Hao directly threw the 5 portions of herbs into the cauldron. Then, he turned the energy in his body into a raging flame and began to refine the pills. Yi Hao realized that even the lowest level pills in this world were more difficult to refine than the high-level pills in the Myriad Kingdom continent. Because the difficulty of refining spiritual herbs had increased by a lot, Yi Hao guessed that if he had a heavenly flame, it might be much better. But now that he didn't have a heavenly flame, Yi Hao could only obediently refine pills and look forward to completing the mission so that he could draw a better heavenly flame. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for refining successfully. You have obtained 4 Demon Guard level healing pills. Congratulations to the host for gaining 4 experience points. Only 4 pills? Yi Hao couldn't help but frown. One had to know that in the Myriad Kingdom continent, when he refined pills, he had a 100% success rate. Furthermore, he used to have the pill explosion technique, which could increase the number of pills he could refine. Oh right, I wonder if the pill explosion technique can still be used. Yi Hao suddenly remembered that in the Myriad Kingdom continent, the system had rewarded him with the pill refining skill. One had to know that the pill explosion technique was simply a divine skill. If someone could refine pills with a 100% success rate, that would be incredible. On the other hand, Yi Hao maintained the quality of the pills and increased the number of pills he could refine on this basis. Yi Hao immediately opened the cauldron and put away the 4 round healing pills that were emitting a medicinal fragrance. With a glance, one could tell that the quality of these 4 pills wasn't bad. Yi Hao couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. The success rate of refining pills had already decreased. If the quality of the pills also decreased, then he wouldn't be able to live anymore. After Yi Hao put away the pills, Yi Hao didn't waste any of the wasted herbs in the cauldron and directly put them away. Even though these were wasted, the spirit energy was still there. It could still play a huge role in the external injuries of the soldiers. After collecting them, Yi Hao continued to throw spiritual herbs into the cauldron. Pill explosion technique. At the same time, Yi Hao tried the pill explosion technique to see if it could still be used in the ancient demon realm. Ding dong, pill explosion technique failed. Level is too low. Experience plus 10. As expected, it still failed. Hearing the system's notification, Yi Hao wasn't surprised. This was similar to what he had expected. However, the system's one-time reward of 10 experience points was a sky-high number. This was because the experience points now were no longer the experience points of the 10,000 Kingdoms continent. This was based on a ratio of thousands of times. Previously, he had only been rewarded with 1 experience point. His alchemist career had risen from the sage level of the 10,000 Kingdoms continent to the demon guard level. Since he could obtain experience points, Yi Hao saw hope. This meant that the pill explosion technique could be leveled up. As long as the level was high enough, he could use it. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for refining successfully. You have obtained 4 Demon Guard level healing pills. Soon, the system's notification sounded. However, it still didn't succeed completely. It was only 80% successful. Yi Hao was somewhat dissatisfied. If other alchemists were to know about this, they would probably be angered to death. This was because even a genius alchemist wouldn't dare to refine 5 sets of pills in one go. Whether one could successfully refine 1 set of pills depended on luck and skill. If one were to refine 5 sets, it would be good enough if the cauldron didn't explode. It was simply a fool's dream to want to refine 5 sets of pills. Moreover, most alchemists didn't use their own strength to refine pills. This was because flames were too difficult to control. Not only did it consume a lot of energy, but the power of the flames wasn't enough. Only a very high-level alchemist would be able to refine pills like this. Most alchemists would refine pills in their sects or in some sacred ground. They would use natural fire seeds or fire veins to refine pills. As for fire seeds and fire veins, they were similar to strange flames. It was just that no one dared to subdue them. Chapter 698. To be able to use energy to transform into furnace fire like Yi Hao, and to refine in 5 batches from the start, and the success rate was so high. It was simply a heaven-defying existence. If some large sects knew about it, they would definitely fight to take him in. Because even a genius couldn't do it to Yi Hao's extent. If they brought Yi Hao to the sect and let Yi Hao borrow the fire vein to refine pills, his speed would increase by a terrifying amount. But Yi Hao still didn't know how heaven-defying he was at this moment, and there was still a trace of complaint in his heart. But although he was complaining, Yi Hao didn't stop refining pills at all. Ding dong, pill explosion technique failed. Level is too low. Experience increased by 10. Ding dong, pill explosion technique failed. Level is too low. Experience increased by 10. Ding dong, pill explosion technique failed. Level is too low. Experience increased by 10. Similarly, every time Yi Hao refined a furnace of pills, he would use pill explosion technique once. But pill explosion technique didn't seem to have any intention of improving. It was just constantly accumulating experience. The first day passed quickly, and Yi Hao refined 500 pills. If this were to spread out, it would scare people to death. A Demon Guard level alchemist refining 500 pills a day, this was simply unheard of. But Yi Hao was still very dissatisfied. After all, the mission given to him by the system was to refine 3,000 pills. And now that a day had passed, that meant that he only had 3 days left. As for himself, he had to refine 2,500 pills within 3 days. Yi Hao didn't dare to relax and continued to refine pills without stopping. Yi Hao discovered that it was indeed harder to raise the level of alchemists now than in the Myriad Kingdom continent. Because a day had passed, and his level was still at Demon Guard Alchemist. But Yi Hao looked at the experience bar, and estimated that in another day, he could be promoted to Demon General Alchemist. Thinking of this, Yi Hao felt very motivated. The second day passed quickly, and Yi Hao already had 300 to 400 magical beasts around him. Due to his alchemy, Yi Hao did not let the Green Wolf King chase the magical beasts away. Instead, he let the Green Wolf King lead the pack of green wolves to watch over the magical beasts. These magical beasts were basically at the Demon Guard level, while the green wolves were all at the Demon General level. With these green wolves around, these magical beasts didn't dare to move recklessly. The few demon generals and magical beasts were also intimidated by the Green Wolf King. On the other hand, Yi Hao focused on refining pills. The second day had more time than the first day. Therefore, Yi Hao directly refined 700 pills. The medicinal pills in these 2 days only added up to 1,200 pills, making Yi Hao involuntarily feel anxious. This was because half of the time had already passed, yet he hadn't even refined half of the pills. If he continued at this speed, he wouldn't be able to complete the mission given by the system. If he couldn't complete the mission, then he would miss the opportunity to obtain the deviant flame. Yi Hao would definitely not be willing to accept this result. Let's do it. Yi Hao gritted his teeth and continued to add spiritual herbs into the furnace. Luckily, the Deacon Zhang's infinite space ring was rich with spiritual herbs. Otherwise, it would be awkward if he didn't have any spiritual herbs. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for successfully refining pills. You have received 4 experience points. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for leveling up your alchemist profession. You are now a demon general alchemist. Phew, hearing the system's voice, Yi Hao finally heaved a sigh of relief. I've finally leveled up. Yi Hao added the spiritual herbs into the furnace again. Yi Hao realized that refining the spiritual herbs this time was much easier. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for successfully refining pills. You have received 5 Demon Guard healing pills. You have received 5 experience points. As expected, the success rate has also increased. Hearing the system's voice, Yi Hao was overjoyed. Now, he finally saw a glimmer of hope for completing the mission. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for failing to use the pill explosion technique. You have received 10 experience points. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for leveling up the pill explosion technique. You are now a demon guard. At this moment, good news came one after another. The pill explosion technique that Yi Hao had been looking forward to could finally be used. Pill explosion technique. Upgradable. You are now a demon guard. Function. Using the pill explosion technique to refine pills has a 10% success rate. By increasing the number of pills, the chances of pills exploding increases with the level of the pill explosion technique. Although it's only 10%, no matter how small a fly is, it's still meat. Yi Hao thought to himself. At this moment, Yi Hao was a demon general alchemist and had the help of the pill explosion technique. Although the 10% success rate of the pill explosion technique was very low, perhaps it was because of Yi Hao's luck. Every 3 or 4 times there would be at least 1 pill explosion. In an instant, the speed of Yi Hao's pill refinement increased exponentially. On the 3rd day, Yi Hao had refined 1,000 pills. In total, he had refined 2,200 pills in the past 3 days. He was only 800 pills away from completing the mission. However, these 800 pills were a piece of cake for the current Yi Hao. Because with Yi Hao's current speed, refining 1,000 pills in one go was not a problem. If other alchemists knew about this, they would probably vomit blood from anger. This was because an ordinary demon guard or demon general alchemist could only refine dozens of pills in a day. To be able to refine 100 pills in a day was already incredible, and refining more than 200 pills was extremely rare. Unless it was an alchemist at the demon general level or above, they would be able to do it, and Yi Hao had just become an alchemist at the demon general level. He could refine close to 1,000 pills in a day, which was several times the number of pills that others could refine. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for completing the mission. 3,000 pills have been refined. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a chance to draw a deviant flame. Phew, it's finally done. Yi Hao exhaled heavily. He immediately stood up and stretched his body. Not to mention these 4 days, Yi Hao's body was already somewhat unable to endure refining pills day and night. And at this time, the energy in his body was almost exhausted. And the recovery pills that he had snatched from the cloud pill chamber were almost all consumed by him. Yi Hao could not help but sit on the ground and begin to recover his physical strength and strength. Yi Hao saw that the energy in his body had almost recovered. He said to the system, "System, I want to draw a deviant flame." Yi Hao knew that there were more than 100 types of deviant flames in battle through the heavens. However, only 23 types of deviant flames had appeared on the deviant flame list. These 23 types were undoubtedly the most powerful among the 100 types of deviant flames. Therefore, Yi Hao did not have any extravagant requests at this moment. He only wanted to draw a deviant flame from the deviant flame list. Even if it was the 23rd deviant flame, it would be fine. At this moment, a space suddenly appeared in front of Yi Hao. When Yi Hao saw this space, he was simply shocked, because in front of him was a world of fire. Red, orange, yellow, green, indigo, purple. There were colors, there were all kinds of colors mixed together. All kinds of flames could be seen here. Chapter 699. Yi Hao looked at the number of deviant flames in front of him. There were at least 1,000 types. How can there be so many deviant flames? Even Battle Through the Heavens didn't have this many. Yi Hao frowned and mumbled in confusion. Host, these are deviant flames from dozens of worlds. Naturally, there are many types. Furthermore, some of the weaker deviant flames have not been collected yet. The system immediately explained when it heard Yi Hao's mumbling. Yi Hao immediately nodded. He instantly understood. Because Battle Through the Heavens was a world, there were close to 100 types of deviant flames. However, there were only 23 types on the deviant flame list. This place was different. There were many deviant flames collected from many worlds. Naturally, there were more deviant flames than in Battle Through the Heavens. System, how do I draw the deviant flames? Yi Hao asked the system after he understood everything. At this moment, Yi Hao couldn't help but feel a little nervous and expectant. The deviant flames draw has begun. The host will get whichever deviant flame he catches. After the system finished speaking, all the deviant flames instantly flew in all directions. Damn it! Yi Hao couldn't help but curse. The system didn't give him the ability to react at all. Seeing the heavenly flames flying in all directions, Yi Hao was at a loss as to where he should go to chase after them. Furthermore, the deviant flames were extremely fast. In just a short while, they had already flown out of sight. Ding dong! The deviant flame's draw has begun. If the host can't catch a deviant flame within 15 minutes, the host will be deemed to have given up this draw opportunity. What? There's a time limit? This time, Yi Hao almost cursed. Forget it. Everything depends on luck. Yi Hao randomly chose a direction and chased after the deviant flames. This was because Yi Hao was afraid that if he didn't chase after the deviant flames, he wouldn't be able to get a single deviant flame. Then, all his efforts over the past few days would have been for nothing. Regardless of the strength of the deviant flames, at least he wanted to get one. It was better than nothing. Yi Hao reacted quickly. In the blink of an eye, he saw the deviant flames. There were 3 or 4 flames in front of him, 3 blue and 1 purple. Yi Hao did not know how many flames there were and what kind of flames they were. Moreover, Yi Hao believed that there were strong and weak deviant flames. However, Yi Hao didn't know what kind of deviant flames were, so he couldn't differentiate them. Should I capture it or not? Yi Hao hesitated as he looked at the deviant flame in front of him. After all, he also wanted to capture a stronger heavenly flame. Furthermore, he wasn't sure of the strength of these heavenly flames. If he randomly grabbed one and it turned out to be a weak heavenly flame, wouldn't he suffer a huge loss? The stronger the heavenly flame, the harder it is to capture it. At this moment, Yi Hao suddenly thought of Battle Through the Heavens. The stronger the deviant flame, the more difficult it was to subdue it. Although he didn't need to go to the natural world to collect them, and these strange flames were not harmful to him because of the system, he still needed to collect them. However, Yi Hao firmly believed that the stronger the deviant flame, the harder it was to obtain it. This was an unchanging truth. When Yi Hao thought of this, he could not help but want to take a gamble. Yi Hao directly gave up on the deviant flame in front of him and continued to chase forward. Along the way, Yi Hao caught more than a few hundred types of deviant flames. Moreover, Yi Hao realized that the remaining deviant flames were even harder to catch up with. This further confirmed Yi Hao's thoughts. Ding dong, there are still 60 seconds left. Just as Yi Hao was still trying his best to chase forward, the system's voice suddenly sounded. It turned out that he had been too engrossed in the chase and had forgotten that there was still time. Yi Hao glanced ahead and realized that there was no trace of the deviant flame at all. Hence, it was simply a fool's dream to capture a deviant flame within 60 seconds. Am I really going to waste this opportunity? Yi Hao was a little unwilling. If he had known earlier, he would have casually grabbed a deviant flame just now. At this moment, Yi Hao saw a flame in the shape of a magical beast flying past him. Ding dong, 30 seconds countdown. It's you. Hearing the system's voice, Yi Hao immediately chased after the deviant flame. Yi Hao believed that this deviant flame was definitely not the weakest. After all, there were more than 100 types of deviant flames behind this deviant flame. In fact, even if this deviant flame was the weakest deviant flame, Yi Hao would still accept it. After all, there was not enough time now. Getting a deviant flame was better than not getting one at all. The deviant flame could also sense that Yi Hao was trying to catch it and couldn't help but dodge in all directions. Ding dong, 10 seconds countdown. Still trying to run. When Yi Hao heard the system's voice, he was a little anxious. However, he still tried his best to grab the deviant flame. Ding dong, time's up. At this moment, the system's voice suddenly sounded. At this moment, Yi Hao's hand touched the deviant flame. Does this count as getting it? At this moment, Yi Hao suddenly became nervous. After all, the time was up and he had just caught the deviant flame. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for obtaining the 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire. Ranked 250 on the deviant flame list. It's actually the 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire. Looking at the name of this deviant flame, Yi Hao immediately felt a sense of familiarity. This was because this was something on the deviant flame list in Battle Through the Heavens and was ranked 22nd. There were more deviant flames here. Although this 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire was ranked 250th, overall, it was already very good. At this moment, Yi Hao looked at the 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire in his hand. It directly drilled into his body from his palm. At this moment there was a sudden change. The beast source energy that was originally obedient in Yi Hao's body suddenly went berserk. Similarly, the 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire also went berserk. Yi Hao's face changed. He didn't understand why such a thing would happen. One had to know that these two weren't ordinary things. Although the beast source energy didn't have much use in the ancient demon realm, it was on the invincible continent. But in the Myriad Kingdom continent, they are invincible existences that can control the life and death of any magical beast. However, because the ancient demon realm had its own source energy and the beast source energy was weaker, the beast source energy was suppressed by the ancient demon realm. As for the deviant flame, it was needless to say. If it weren't for the system, Yi Hao would probably be burned to death if he were to subdue the deviant flame personally. If these two things were to fight in his body, he would definitely suffer. Just as Yi Hao was about to stop them, the beast source energy and the 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire suddenly quietened down. The two of them leaned against each other and waited quietly. Everything that happened just now seemed to be an illusion of Yi Hao. These two are related to beasts. Could it be that these two are only related? Yi Hao guessed in his heart. But at this moment, Yi Hao had already left the system space and returned to the ancient demon realm. Come out, 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire. Yi Hao wanted to see the power of the 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire. At this moment, a ball of flame appeared on Yi Hao's fingertip. However, Yi Hao could feel that this flame was many times stronger than the one that he transformed into. Chapter 700. Yi Hao looked at the group of magical beasts prostrating on the ground, not even daring to roar. Even the Green Wolf King could not help but take a few steps back when he saw the 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire in Yi Hao's hand. If not for the fact that Yi Hao was his master and he knew that Yi Hao would not hurt him, he would have run away long ago. Let's see how effective the pills are. Yi Hao threw a bunch of spiritual grasses into the cauldron and controlled the temperature of the 10,000 beast spirit fire. In the blink of an eye, the spiritual grasses had turned into liquid, and the impurities within the spiritual grasses were burned into nothingness. It was much easier than before. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for successfully creating the pills. You have received 6 Demon Guard Supreme Grade Healing Pills. You have received 6 experience points. So fast. Yi Hao looked at the pills that he had created. The speed had more than doubled. Most importantly, the 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire was ranked 250th among the Deviant Flames. How powerful would the Deviant Flames that were ranked first be? And he had yet to unleash the full power of the 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire. That was because the 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire was the same as martial skills. It was affected by his cultivation. As his cultivation grew stronger, the power of the 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire would grow stronger as well. Yi Hao put away the 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire and looked at the pills in the cauldron. He noticed that the pills had become rounder, and the medicinal fragrance was very rich. It was much better than the healing pills that he had created before. This was because the flames that he had created from his own power could not completely burn away the impurities within the spiritual grasses. But the 10,000 Beast Spirit Fire could. Roar! Just then, the ground began to tremble, and a beast's roar came from afar. Hearing the beast's roar, the Green Wolf King showed a look of unease. Just then, a black shadow flashed past, and Yi Hao saw a peak demon Lord Bloodthirsty Leopard appear before him. Bloodthirsty leopards were born at the Demon Lord realm. Their talents were higher than the Green Wolf King. When a bloodthirsty leopard matured, its power would reach the peak Demon Lord realm. And this bloodthirsty leopard was the overlord of this area. All the demonic beasts here were its food. But for the past few days, it felt that its food had been decreasing. The bloodthirsty leopard had chased him all the way here. The bloodthirsty leopard looked at Yi Hao with a bloodthirsty gaze. A trace of disdain flashed in its eyes. It clearly didn't place Yi Hao's cultivation in its eyes. Junior Leopard, I'll use you to test the power of my 10,000 beasts spiritual fire. Seeing the bloodthirsty leopard roar, Yi Hao showed no fear and threw out the 10,000 beasts spiritual fire. Seeing the flame in Yi Hao's hand, the bloodthirsty leopard's eyes widened. He felt a dangerous aura from Yi Hao's hand. Run! The bloodthirsty leopard didn't dare to act rashly. Turned around and ran. This was the experience he had accumulated over the years in the demonic beast forest. Survival was the most important thing. If he wasn't a match for the other party, he wouldn't charge forward. Trying to run? Seeing the fleeing bloodthirsty leopard, a cold smile flashed across Yi Hao's face. He immediately threw the 10,000 beast spirit fire at the bloodthirsty leopard. In an instant, the 10,000 beast spirit fire smashed onto the bloodthirsty leopard's body. The flames were like the bite of 10,000 beasts, instantly annihilating the bloodthirsty leopard. After killing the bloodthirsty leopard, the 10,000 beast spirit fire flew back into Yi Hao's body. Yi Hao let out a cry of surprise. He realized that the attack of the 10,000 beast spirit fire didn't consume any of its power. Instead, it seemed to have become stronger. Yi Hao suddenly remembered that the 10,000 beast spirit fire was formed from the soul and bloodline of 10,000 beasts. He guessed that the 10,000 beast spirit fire didn't just kill the bloodthirsty leopard, it also took away the soul and bloodline of the bloodthirsty leopard. That was why it became slightly stronger. Yi Hao was curious. If the 10,000 beast spirit fire continued to devour more demonic beasts, would its ranking rise? Thinking of this, Yi Hao wanted to test it out. He directly threw the 10,000 beast spirit fire at a demon guard. This demonic beast panicked and was burned into nothingness. However, Yi Hao felt that the 10,000 beast spirit fire didn't become stronger this time. It seemed that the strength of the demonic beast spirit fire was related to the strength of the demonic beast. Yi Hao walked to the location of the bloodthirsty leopard. At this moment, there was only a pile of ashes left. Yi Hao felt that it was a waste. The 10,000 beast spirit fire burned the bloodthirsty leopard too cleanly. Yi Hao felt that it was a waste. After all, this was a peak demon king level demonic beast. It could be exchanged for a lot of good things. At the same time, its bones could be used to forge spirit tools. Yi Hao kicked the ashes and found a pleasant surprise. The beast core of the bloodthirsty leopard had not been burned. It seemed that it was because of his realm. If he was a little stronger, even the beast core would have been burned to ashes. This beast core was the same as the demonic beast core in the 10,000 countries continent. It stored the power of the demonic beast. However, the beast core was a level higher than the demonic beast core. However, Yi Hao was also glad that the beast core was not burned. This was because the beast core was the most precious thing on the demonic beast. Not only could it be refined into pills, it could also be used by cultivators or demonic beasts. After using it, one could refine the energy inside and turn it into their own energy. Yi Hao looked at the Green Wolf King. At this moment, the Green Wolf King was looking at the beast core in his hand with longing. Yi Hao was not stingy. He directly threw the beast core to the Green Wolf King. Seeing the beast core flying towards him, the Green Wolf King let out an excited roar and swallowed the beast core in one gulp. It should be able to break through to the 4th Order Demon King level. Yi Hao guessed as he watched the Green Wolf King swallow the beast core. After all, that was a peak Demon King level beast core. If the Green Wolf King could not break through to the 4th Order Demon King level after eating it, then it would be too trashy. After the Green Wolf King swallowed the beast core, it immediately lay on the ground and started refining the beast core in its body. Ding dong, congratulations to hosts Green Wolf King for leveling up. Current level, 10th Order Demon General. Looks like the Green Wolf King is really not bad. Hearing the system's words, Yi Hao couldn't help but nod his head in satisfaction. He had just refined the beast core and the Green Wolf King had already leveled up. It looked like he had underestimated the Green Wolf King after reaching the 4th Order Demon King level. Seeing the Green Wolf King refining the beast core, Yi Hao was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, he sat on the ground and stood guard for the Green Wolf King. Perhaps it was because of the 10,000 beast spirit fire, or perhaps it was because Yi Hao had killed the bloodthirsty leopard. There were hundreds of them lying on the ground, not daring to move. Ding dong, congratulations to hosts Green Wolf King for leveling up. Current level, 1st Order Demon King. Roar, seeing the Green Wolf King leveling up twice in a row as the Green Wolf King's subordinates, the pack of green wolves let out excited roars. Ding dong, congratulations to hosts Green Wolf King for leveling up. Current level, 2nd Order Demon King. Ding dong, congratulations to hosts Green Wolf King for leveling up. Current level, 3rd Order Demon King. Ding dong, congratulations to hosts Green Wolf King for leveling up. Current level, 4th Order Demon King. Hearing the system's notification, Yi Hao opened his eyes and realized that the Green Wolf King was still refining the beast core in its body. Chapter 701. Ding dong. Congratulations to host for leveling up the Green Wolf King. Current rank, Demon King level 5. It actually reached Demon King level 5. Yi Hao looked at the Green Wolf King. He didn't expect the Green Wolf King to really reach Demon King level 5. It was even stronger than he had predicted. However, the Green Wolf King was still refining. It didn't look like it was going to stop anytime soon. Yi Hao shook his head. He estimated that the remaining beast cores wouldn't be able to help the Green Wolf King break through. At most, they would be able to strengthen the Green Wolf King's cultivation and stabilize the Green Wolf King's realm. Sure enough, it was just as he had guessed. After half a day, the Green Wolf King opened his eyes. There was a hint of disappointment in his eyes, because he still hadn't broken through to Demon King level 6. However, Yi Hao was already very satisfied with this result. He couldn't help but pat the Green Wolf King's head to comfort him. The Green Wolf King's eyes were filled with gratitude. If Yi Hao hadn't given him such a precious beast core, he probably wouldn't have been able to break through to Demon King level 5 in his lifetime. However, Yi Hao didn't hesitate to give him the beast core. It was because of this that he had the strength he had now. It's time for you to take command. 5 days have already passed. Those brats should be almost done, Yi Hao said to the Green Wolf King. Then, he looked in the direction of the First Legion. He had given the First Legion 5 days to train and prepare. Now that the time was up, Yi Hao should be almost done. The real training was about to begin. After all, there were still 5 days left. Whether or not the First Legion's average strength could be raised was related to his mission. If he could complete the mission, the strength of the First Legion would increase by a level. Naturally, he didn't want to waste this mission or give it up. Yi Hao was also afraid that the First Legion wouldn't be able to hold on. Hence, he only prepared 100 demonic beasts to attack first and let the First Legion warm up first. Soon, under the pressure of the Green Wolf King, 2 demon generals led 100 demonic beasts to attack the First Legion. At this moment, the First Legion was already on standby. After a few days of training, most of the people's strength had increased by 1 level. Some had even increased by 2 levels. Furthermore, each of them had chosen a martial skill that suited them. Due to the improvement from the aptitude pill, the majority of the people were able to use simple martial skills, but they were still not very familiar with them. But to be able to reach this step was already very difficult. Commander Mu, the Lord said that there will be a test in 5 days, but there seems to be no news. A demon general cultivator asked Mu Long. As for Mu Long, he was the strongest among these 1,000 people. Originally, his strength was at the 3rd level of the demon general realm. After a short 5 days of cultivation, his improvement was the most terrifying. He had directly risen by 3 levels. Mu Long's current strength was at the 6th order demon general. It could be said that he was the strongest among them. At this time, everyone treated him as the center of attention. I believe that if Milord says that there will be a test, there will definitely be a test. Let 100 people stand guard while the rest continue to cultivate. Mu Long said with a solemn expression. Yes. The others did not disobey Mu Long's orders and began to cultivate. I keep feeling that something is wrong. Mu Long frowned and thought hard. Commander Mu, don't worry. We'll deal with whatever comes our way. There aren't even any demonic beasts here. They might have been scared away by us, a demon general said with a smile. Demonic beasts? Hearing this, Mu Long's eyes narrowed. In this forest, if Yi Hao wanted to train them, he could only use demonic beasts to train them. Men, check the surroundings for me. If there are any demonic beasts, report to me immediately. The rest of you, follow me and move. Mu Long suddenly thought of a possibility and immediately gave the order. Commander Mu, the brothers are all cultivating. Moreover, this place is so safe. If we leave, I'm afraid that we will encounter danger. That's right, Commander Mu. It has been so many days and we haven't seen a single demonic beast. Even if a demonic beast comes, it won't be a match for us. We have 1,000 people here. Even if dozens of demonic beasts come, as long as they are not demon generals, we don't have to worry. Commander Mu, I think you're overthinking it. A few demon generals spoke up at this moment. They didn't quite agree with Mu Long's words. Seeing that everyone was unwilling to leave, Mu Long couldn't force them. After all, he didn't have an official position yet. That's fine too. However, the perimeter must be set up for 1 kilometer. If something goes wrong, we can retreat immediately. Mu Long could only agree to not move for the time being. However, he was still vigilant as he spoke. Seeing that Mu Long had agreed to their suggestion, They couldn't object to Mu Long's request. After all, although Mu Long didn't have an official position as a commander, based on Mu Long's cultivation, it was a done deal. They had to treat Mu Long better. Rumble. What's that sound? Unexpectedly, before Mu Long could send the sentries out, they heard the rumbling of the ground. Everyone felt the ground tremble. They immediately stood up vigilantly and looked at Mu Long. It seems that my guess was right. The Lord is using the demonic beasts to train us, Mu Long said with a serious expression. Commander Mu, The rest of the demon generals looked vexed at this moment. They regretted not listening to Mu Long. However, before they could finish speaking, they were interrupted by Mu Long. There's no need to say any more. Prepare for battle. Upon hearing Mu Long's command, everyone drew their weapons one after another. However, their weapons were much shabbier. They were basically demon guard grade weapons. Furthermore, their grades weren't too high. Fortunately, they were cultivators. Otherwise, they wouldn't even have a single weapon. Commander Mu, which direction are these demonic beasts coming from? A demon general asked. As Mu Long's cultivation was higher, he immediately analyzed the direction of the demonic beasts. The demonic beasts are coming from the west. It's too late for us to run now. We will only be wasting our energy for nothing. But judging from the situation, there are quite a few demonic beasts. Everyone looked worried. All soldiers, listen up. In a while, split into groups of 10 and work together to kill the demonic beast. The crowd should spread out as much as possible. Everyone, find cover and prepare for battle, Mu Long immediately ordered. After all, he didn't know how powerful the demonic beasts were. However, he believed that Yi Hao wouldn't find demonic beasts that were too powerful for them to deal with. After all, Yi Hao's purpose was to train them, not to kill them. The reason he ordered the crowd to spread out was so that the soldiers could move nimbly when fighting against the demonic beast. This way, they wouldn't be flustered and hurt their own people when the demonic beasts swarmed them. That wouldn't be good. Furthermore, the soldiers were weak. If a few of them worked together to kill a demonic beast, even if the demonic beasts were slightly stronger than them, they would still be able to handle it. Chapter 702. Hearing Mu Long's command, the 1,000 men immediately dispersed and consciously split into teams of 10, waiting for the arrival of the magical beast. Roar. Roar, rumble. The roars of various magical beasts could be heard, and they were getting closer and closer. Mu Long could already vaguely see the horde of magical beasts. So many magical beasts. Everyone looked at the swarm of magical beasts that swept up dust and were extremely nervous. They felt that their hearts were about to jump out of their throat. Mu Long heaved a sigh of relief and comforted them. The cultivation of these magical beasts is not too high. Everyone, be careful and follow me to kill the magical beast. In the blink of an eye, 100 magical beasts attacked like a tide. One by one, the magical beasts rammed into the soldiers with bloodshot eyes. This was because the humans in front of them were tasty food in their eyes. One had to know that they had been hungry for 4 to 5 days and had been lying on the ground sullenly. It was time for them to vent their anger. Fortunately, Mu Long had asked everyone to disperse in advance. Otherwise, many people would have been injured or killed by the magical beast. When the magical beasts saw that they had not rammed into anyone, they were furious. The 2 demon general-level magical beasts roared, and in an instant, the 100 magical beasts immediately dispersed and attacked the soldiers. The soldiers cooperated, and basically, 10 people surrounded one magical beast. However, the soldiers did not dare to be careless because these magical beasts were stronger than humans, and their levels were higher than theirs. Although the 10 of them were able to handle one magical beast with ease, their teamwork was almost zero. Up until now, the 10 of them had not been able to cause any harm to the magical beast. Instead, there were people who were lightly injured from time to time. Mu Long shook his head. He finally understood Yi Hao's painstaking efforts and why Yi Hao would drive these magical beasts to train the soldiers. It was because the First Legion was just a group of scattered soldiers. They did not know how to cooperate in battle and only cared about themselves. Seeing the soldiers fighting on their own, Mu Long could not help but shout, "Soldiers, you are now a whole. You are all members of the First Legion and represent the glory of the First Legion. You are no longer alone. You must know how to cooperate with each other." Hearing Mu Long's words, the soldiers could not help but be shocked. At first, everyone panicked when they saw the magical beasts, afraid that the magical beasts would hurt them. Then, he only thought of protecting himself while the others rushed forward to block the attacks of the magical beasts. In the end, all of them had wounds on their bodies, but the magical beasts didn't have any at all. Only then did they realize that they were no longer alone. Instead, they were brothers of the same legion. Since they were brothers from the same legion, how could they watch Brother Light attack while they retreated? Slowly, everyone began to cooperate. Gradually, everyone began to be able to cause a certain amount of damage to the magical beast. This was the greatest encouragement to the soldiers. They finally knew what they should do and what they should do. Everyone's teamwork became more and more tacit, and they gradually became more skillful. Mu Long heaved a sigh of relief, but he wasn't in a hurry to attack the magical beast. This was because all the magical beasts below the level of demon guards were dealt with by the soldiers. As for the 2 demon general level magical beasts, they were dealt with by the group of demon generals. Mu Long, on the other hand, rushed forward to help whenever he saw danger. However, Mu Long didn't kill any of the magical beasts. He understood Yi Hao's intention. That was to train these people's combat ability and coordination. If he helped at this time, he wouldn't achieve the desired effect. He could only try his best not to let anyone in the First Legion die. In the distance, Yi Hao nodded in satisfaction when he saw this scene. This person is not bad. He knows how to command and has a brain. He is qualified to be the commander of the First Legion. Yi Hao hadn't chosen the commander of the First Legion because he wanted to see who would perform well in this battle. Unsurprisingly, Mu Long met Yi Hao's standards. This was because if it weren't for Mu Long's command, the magical beasts might have charged forward and the First Legion would have suffered countless casualties. If it weren't for Mu Long's command, these people wouldn't have been able to cooperate so quickly. Yi Hao had already prepared himself for the deaths of people in the First Legion. Although this was a little cruel, it was something that had to be experienced if one wanted to train an outstanding unit. However, to Yi Hao's surprise, no one had been seriously injured so far. Yi Hao was very satisfied with this result. Yi Hao believed that after this wave of magical beasts' attack, the combat ability of the First Legion would increase exponentially. This wasn't necessarily an increase in strength. One must know that on the battlefield, the cooperation between soldiers played a very important role. Moreover, only when these people's cooperation improved could they learn military formations and unleash the strongest power of the military formations. Yi Hao wanted to forge the First Legion into a rope. No matter what, they had to be together and cooperate to kill the enemy. The battle lasted for half a day. Finally, all the magical beasts were killed by the First Legion. At this moment, everyone in the First Legion couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Some of them even sat on the ground. "All of you get up. Be alert and prepare to fight at any time," Mu Long immediately said when he saw the relaxed soldiers. Mu Long was still worried that the magical beast's attack wasn't over yet. Hearing Mu Long's words, the soldiers didn't complain. They immediately took out their weapons and looked around vigilantly. However, after waiting for nearly an hour, nothing happened. "Commander Mu, can you let our brothers rest for a while?" a demon general asked. Mu Long looked around vigilantly, not daring to let his guard down. Looking at the magical beast corpses on the ground, he said, "Dig out all the beast cores. Give them to those who can break through at any time." The rest of you can drink some magical beast essence blood. Hearing Mu Long's orders, the soldiers immediately got to work. They dug out the beast cores and gave them to those who were about to break through. Mu Long was satisfied that the soldiers who didn't get a beast core didn't say anything. Good brothers, we should rise or fall together. We can't be greedy for good things. We should give them to those who need them. That's because everyone in the First Legion is a brother, shouted Mu Long. Everyone in the First Legion is a brother. The moment Mu Long finished speaking, all the soldiers shouted in unison. Brothers, the number of beast cores is limited, but we have plenty of beast blood. This beast blood is also good stuff. We can't waste it. Brothers, let's use blood as wine. Drink. Hearing Mu Long's words, the soldiers who didn't get a beast core began to bleed the magical beasts and drink their blood. Chapter 703. I reckon that these beast blood and beast cores will be enough to raise their cultivation. Yi Hao stood on the spot and looked at the people who were cultivating. Since it's a life and death trial, let's make it more realistic. Yi Hao made up his mind. After all, how could he train a good army if he wasn't ruthless? Following Yi Hao's command, more than 30 demonic beasts rushed out. Yi Hao didn't release too many demonic beasts as he was afraid that the soldiers wouldn't be able to withstand them. Releasing these 30 demonic beasts was to tell the First Legion that they couldn't relax at all no matter what. If the 1,000 soldiers dealt with these 30 magical beasts well, they would be able to exterminate them easily. However, if they panicked, the First Legion would definitely suffer heavy casualties. After all, there weren't many guards. All of them were refining the beast blood or beast cores and had completely let down their guard. Perhaps it was because they had waited for a long time and didn't see any demonic beasts, so they relaxed. These 30 demonic beasts were led by a demon general and moved towards the First Legion. However, these 30 demonic beasts didn't swarm towards the First Legion like they did at the beginning. Instead, they moved towards the First Legion silently. Yi Hao couldn't help but feel a little nervous when he saw this scene. After all, this was his First Legion. He couldn't bear to see them die. However, if he didn't do so now, they would be on the battlefield and die even faster. Yi Hao could only hope that the First Legion would be able to tide over this crisis. This was because only by making them suffer would they be able to learn a deep lesson and not make the same mistake again. As expected, the people of the First Legion didn't notice at this moment. At first, everyone was still a little vigilant. However, they slowly refined the beast blood in their bodies and completely forgot that they were still in the forest. Everyone was focused on cultivating. However, the beast blood was also very powerful. The wounds on everyone's bodies were quickly healing. Moreover, many people's cultivation had loosened a little and were about to break through. Mu Long had already closed his eyes, but he didn't let down his guard at all. At this moment, Mu Long suddenly opened his eyes and roared, "Prepare for battle." Hearing Mu Long's roar, everyone was obviously a little flustered. However, they quickly picked up their weapons. Looking at the scene before them, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. That was because the 30-plus magical beasts were only a dozen meters away from them. To the magical beasts, that dozen meters was simply a short distance. If Mu Long had not woken them up, many of them would have died under the claws of the demonic beast. However, it was clear that everyone's reaction was quite fast this time, and there was some tacit understanding between them. Without Mu Long's command, the dozen or so people formed small teams and charged towards the magical beast. The rest of you, stay here and protect the brothers who are refining the beast cores. Mu Long looked at the soldiers who were still refining the beast cores. These soldiers who were refining the beast cores had all reached the critical point of breaking through. This was not the time to be interrupted. Because of this, if he were to stop now, going berserk would be considered light. He might even lose his life on the spot. Those magical beasts were also very smart. Their targets were also the people who were refining the beast cores. After all, they also knew that they had to pick the soft persimmon. Moreover, these people already had power in their bodies. If they ate these people, they would obtain a portion of these people's power to increase their own strength. Hearing Mu Long's words, everyone immediately drew out close to 300 soldiers to protect the people who were refining the beast cores. The battle quickly became white-hot. However, it could be seen that although the bodies of the First Legion were a little tired, there were still a lot of magical beasts. But the good thing was that the number of magical beasts was very small. Basically, 20 people could fight one magical beast. No matter how energetic the magical beasts were, they could not withstand the attacks of 20 people in turns. After fighting for half a day, the attacks of the numerous magical beasts gradually became weak. They were not as fierce as they were at the beginning and gradually fell into a disadvantage. Instead, the soldiers had gained the upper hand. Moreover, everyone's coordination was becoming more and more tacit. The soldiers who were guarding the beast cores were vigilantly observing their surroundings. At the same time, they were also watching the soldiers who were fighting the magical beast. They were analyzing the battle and cooperation between them, their shortcomings in the battle, and learning from their battle experience. On the other hand, Mu Long heaved a sigh of relief. He was secretly rejoicing. Fortunately, the Lord was not too cruel. If there were more magical beasts, there would definitely be casualties. Mu Long could see that although the First Legion had the upper hand now, it was very difficult for them to fight. They were completely relying on their numbers to suppress the magical beasts. Roar! At this moment, there was a sudden roar of magical beasts. Mu Long frowned and looked around vigilantly. However, he did not find any magical beasts. Mu Long could not help but urge, "Brothers, quickly end the battle." Mu Long was afraid that the magical beasts would rush out again. If that happened, the First Legion would definitely not be able to hold on. Right now, they could only eliminate the magical beasts in front of them before preparing for the next battle. When the soldiers heard so many magical beasts roaring, they were all panicking and anxious. The speed of their attacks also increased significantly. Looking at the soldiers attacking with all their might, Yi Hao's lips curled into a smile. This was the result he wanted. He wanted to give these people a sense of crisis as if they were facing death. Only in this way could they grow and stimulate their potential. Yi Hao ordered the Green Wolf King from time to time. He deliberately let the hundreds of magical beasts roar so that the First Legion would feel nervous. However, he did not intend to let these magical beasts attack. This was because he could see that so far this was the strongest force that the First Legion could display. If he let the magical beasts attack again, it would really be sending the First Legion to their death. However, Yi Hao believed that after this critical moment of life and death, when everyone defeated the magical beasts, many of the others would be able to break through. The soldiers of the First Legion were now attacking the magical beasts with all their might. This was because when they heard the magical beasts' roars, their hearts began to tremble involuntarily. This was because they didn't know when those roaring magical beasts would launch an attack. Everyone could not wait to kill the magical beasts in front of them immediately. This was because to them, those magical beasts were like a force hanging over their neck. The roars of those magical beasts were like talismans that hastened their deaths. Under the desperate attacks of the crowd, more and more injuries appeared on the bodies of the 30-odd magical beasts. Everyone finally saw a glimmer of hope. Chapter 704. Hearing Mu Long's words, everyone had no choice but to be careful. This was because it was common for magical beasts to counterattack when they were on the brink of death. At the last moment, the magical beasts would attack with all their might as if they didn't care about their lives. Often, they would take the lives of a few people. Fortunately, everyone was prepared. They cooperated well and blocked the magical beasts' counterattack before they died. The magical beasts were now lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Under the tacit cooperation of everyone, they could only fall unwillingly. However, everyone was tense and didn't dare to relax at all. The deafening roar of the magical beasts made it impossible for them to relax. At this moment, Mu Long didn't know if Yi Hao would send out more magical beasts. Therefore, Mu Long didn't dare to let down his guard. Everyone split into two teams. One team will cultivate first and the other team will be on guard. Mu Long immediately instructed. This was because all the soldiers were exhausted. The energy in their bodies had been depleted and they urgently needed to recover. Otherwise, if another 100 magical beasts came, they would all be wiped out. The soldiers very skillfully took out the blood essence and beast cores of the magical beasts. Similarly, the beast cores were given to those who needed them. As for the blood essence, everyone took some. However, most of them began to cultivate cross-legged. The remaining soldiers looked around vigilantly. Yi Hao looked at the sky and saw that it was already noon. He said to the Green Wolf King, "Let's go. We'll come back at night." When the Green Wolf King heard Yi Hao's words, he immediately led Yi Hao away. The magical beasts also left obediently under the pressure of the Green Wolf King. "Commander Mu, I've broken through to the 8th level of the Demon Guard. I've also broken through to the 7th level of the Demon Guard. I've reached the 9th level of the Demon Guard. I feel that with one more beast core, I can break through to the 10th level of the Demon Guard." After 2 to 4 hours, the soldiers who had taken the beast cores all stood up and said joyfully, "All of you, stay on guard. Brothers, switch places to cultivate." Mu Long revealed a rare smile when he saw the soldiers break through. However, he still immediately instructed the soldiers. The 100 or so soldiers looked at the bodies of the magical beasts on the ground and the tired faces of the soldiers on guard. They knew what had happened. All of them were deeply moved. They silently held their weapons and walked to the side to stand guard. Because they knew that if it wasn't for the protection of this group of brothers, they might have died under the claws of the wolves while cultivating. By nightfall, the soldiers had already recovered to their peak state. Normally, without the help of pills, it would be impossible for him to recover so quickly. But with the existence of beast blood had great power. Not only did it allow everyone to recover, it even allowed their cultivation to advance. Mu Long observed his surroundings and felt that it was terrifyingly quiet. A few days ago, when he was cultivating, he didn't feel this nervous. But at this moment, after experiencing the battle during the day, he couldn't help but feel nervous. Even now, he could still remember the roars of the beasts during the day. There were at least a few hundred of them. In other words, this trial of life and death had only just begun. What happened during the day was just the foreplay, and the main show was yet to come. Moreover, it had to be known that the night was a paradise for magical beasts. The strength of magical beasts would increase at night. On the other hand, the combat strength of the soldiers would decrease at night. "Master, please take it easy." Mu Long couldn't help but pray. It was the first half of the night, so the soldiers were all focused and looking around vigilantly. But there wasn't even a fly, let alone magical beast. Everyone's exhaustion gradually crept into their hearts. "General Mu Long, Master hasn't arrived at this time. I don't think he will come." A demon general walked up to Mu Long and said, "No, this is the moment when the soldiers are tired. We can't relax." Mu Long looked around vigilantly, and his tone was full of determination. Because if it were him, he would also choose to attack at this time. Moreover, if they were on the battlefield, the enemy would also launch sneak attacks from time to time. Although this wasn't a battlefield, it was far better than one. Because the enemy they were facing was an unknown number of magical beasts, which were more terrifying than humans. Moreover, there were thousands of changes on the battlefield. No one knew when the enemy would attack. And this was what the soldiers lacked. Because these soldiers were all stragglers and had never been on the battlefield. And if Yi Hao wanted to train them, he would definitely imitate the battlefield in the most realistic way. Therefore, Mu Long didn't know when Yi Hao would attack. Moreover, Mu Long believed that only the soldiers had gone through the test of life and death brought by Yi Hao over the past 5 days. These soldiers would undergo a qualitative change. Even if they were on the battlefield in the future, they would have a chance of survival. Brothers, for the sake of the First Legion and for the sake of returning alive, you must buck up. Because we are not facing Master now, but the enemy. And the enemy won't show any mercy to us. Mu Long looked at the tired soldiers and encouraged them. Yes. Hearing Mu Long's words, the soldiers recovered some of their energy. Everyone hid behind a simple fortress built from the corpses of magical beasts and trees, and looked around vigilantly. Brothers, if you're hungry, eat some beast meat. This is something that we didn't get to eat in the past. It's very nutritious for our bodies. Mu Long continued to say to the soldiers. When the soldiers heard Mu Long's words, they used the weapons in their hands to cut up the magical beast meat. They couldn't bear to roast it and ate it directly. This was because the magical beast meat also contained energy. Although it didn't contain as much energy as the blood of the beasts, it was still a treasure to them. After all, just as Mu Long had said, they used to be scattered soldiers and didn't dare to fight the magical beasts alone. Moreover, even if they killed the magical beasts, they would sell them. They couldn't bear to eat them. But now there were so many magical beasts here. They could finally have a full meal. Fortunately, the meat of these magical beasts didn't have a fishy or strange smell, so it wasn't too hard for them to swallow. You're quite spirited. Not far away, Yi Hao saw that the First Legion hadn't relaxed even now. He couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. But if these people didn't relax, he would never let the magical beasts attack. I reckon that after killing this batch of magical beasts, the First Legion will be able to consume the beast cores and blood. Then, my mission will be completed. Yi Hao looked at the 300 to 400 magical beasts. Actually, it was very simple to complete the mission. As long as they killed these magical beasts and gave the beast cores and blood to the First Legion, they would be able to complete the mission. But the experience of battle and the tacit understanding between the soldiers were more important than completing the mission. Yi Hao had wanted to attack at midnight, but now it seemed that it wasn't in line with his plan. Yi Hao closed his eyes and went to sleep. Chapter 705. After a night, the sun was about to rise. It was obvious that the soldiers of the First Legion were exhausted. Could it be that I'm overthinking? Did the Lord not attack? Mu Long looked at the exhausted soldiers. After a night of preparation, they were all exhausted. Commander Mu, let some of our brothers rest for a while. Otherwise, before the demonic beasts come, the soldiers' bodies will collapse. A demon general said. That was because the demon guards had not reached the level where they could not eat or sleep. That's true, Roar. Mu Long was about to agree, but before he could finish his sentence, the roars of the demonic beasts were heard. Mu Long frowned. Our Lord is so ruthless. His enemies on the battlefield are nothing more than this. Mu Long thought to himself. After all, the soldiers were all exhausted. He did not expect that Yi Hao would act so unconventionally. He would attack when the soldiers were already exhausted. Brothers, today is destined to be a bloody battle. If you can't hold on, don't be stingy with your pills. Kill them. Mu Long shouted and led the charge. When the soldiers saw the demonic beasts attacking, they forced themselves to stay alert and attacked the demonic beasts. After a day of fighting, the soldiers were all injured. However, there were no deaths. There were also close to 100 demonic beasts that had died at the feet of the soldiers. Roar. Just when everyone thought that the battle was about to end, another 100 demonic beasts appeared. Commander, another 100 demonic beasts are coming. I can't hold on any longer. Me too. I've used up all my pills. I just want to have a good sleep. Commander, what should we do? Many of the soldiers looked at Mu Long anxiously. At this moment, Mu Long was fighting with a demonic beast. His body was covered in blood. Mu Long repelled the demonic beast in front of him with his sword. He looked at the horde of demonic beasts and the soldiers that were charging at him from afar. His face was filled with anxiety. "Brothers, retreat!" Mu Long suddenly gave the order. Hearing Mu Long's words, everyone was relieved, because everyone knew that if they continued to fight, they would be the ones who would die. After obtaining the Mu Long, everyone no longer cared about the beast cores and immediately retreated. "You finally know to retreat." Yi Hao nodded in satisfaction when he saw Mu Long's order. A qualified general should be like that. He should know when to advance and when to retreat. He shouldn't be reckless and cause the death of the entire army. Although everyone was retreating, the demonic beasts were still in hot pursuit. "All of you, attack!" At Yi Hao's command, the Green Wolf King let out a loud roar. The remaining 200 magical beasts also pounced on the First Legion as if they had seen their prey. Yi Hao followed behind on his Green Wolf King when he saw the magical beasts charging forward. And this dramatic scene happened. The people of the First Legion were running in front with all their might, while the magical beasts were chasing after them. And Yi Hao was slowly following behind the magical beasts. At this moment, they were rather close to the first city and the 100,000 soldiers were spread out over a wider area. At this moment, someone saw this scene. "Quick, look, that group of people is being chased by the magical beasts. They seem to be from the First Legion, but why are they dressed so shabbily? They've even provoked a horde of beasts. Do you think we should go and save them? They're from the first city after all, of course we should save them. Wait a minute, look, there's someone behind the magical beast. It looks like the Lord." Hearing this person's words, everyone turned to look at Yi Hao. Everyone immediately understood why the magical beasts were chasing after the First Legion. It was 100% related to Yi Hao. Haha, the First Legion is too pitiful. Not only are their equipment inferior to ours, they're even being chased by magical beasts. Quick, look at the way they're running away. I feel that the First Legion should be left to us. But the Lord's move is too vicious. Please don't use it on us. At this moment, the people of the First Legion felt like they were about to cry. The feeling of being chased by hundreds of magical beasts was simply too unbearable. Especially when they saw the people of the Second Legion wearing brand new equipment and chatting cheerfully at the side, they were fuming with anger. "Brothers, we can't let the Second Legion see us as a joke. As long as we persevere and wear good equipment, we can show off in front of the Second Legion." Mu Long couldn't help but shout loudly. As Mu Long didn't see Yi Hao in the secret book of beasts, he was unusually puzzled. Why were these magical beasts chasing after the First Legion so relentlessly? This run lasted for 2 days and 2 nights. Basically, all the soldiers of the Second Legion witnessed this scene with their own eyes. All the small teams of the Second Legion were prepared to rescue them. However, when they saw Yi Hao behind the magical beasts, they all knew what was going on. They all looked at the First Legion with pity in their eyes. This was because compared to the First Legion's training, although their training was tiring, they didn't have to be in such a sorry state. However, slowly, everyone's pity turned into shock and admiration. This was because although the First Legion was running away, they didn't let go of a single person along the way. As long as one person was entangled, there would be a group of people who would rescue him. They had been running for 2 days and 2 nights. Not to mention the First Legion, even the people watching them felt tired. If it were them, they would have been wiped out long ago. On the other hand, the First Legion hadn't lost a single person so far. "Commander Mu, I feel like my legs aren't mine anymore. When will this end?" "Commander Mu, I want to give up. This is simply too unbearable. I can't. I'm tired and hungry. I can't run anymore." At this moment, everyone in the First Legion was shouting at Mu Long. It wasn't that they were complaining, but that they really couldn't run anymore. "Brothers, hold on. If this is a real battlefield, you can imagine the consequences if we don't run. Moreover, this is a real battlefield. If we don't run, we will definitely become food for the magical beast. Hearing Mu Long's words, everyone gritted their teeth and persevered. After all, no one wanted to become food for the magical beast. Looks like it's about time. Yi Hao looked at the state of the soldiers and guessed that they were about to reach their limits. Kill them! Following Yi Hao's order, a man and a wolf began to charge into the magical beasts, bringing about a rain of blood. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for killing a magical beast. You have gained 7 experience points. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for killing a magical beast. You have gained 6 experience points. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for killing a magical beast. You have gained 6 experience points. Hearing the system's reward, Yi Hao sighed. This was simply too little. Chapter 706. My lord, you're too strong. At this moment, when everyone saw the scene of Yi Hao killing the magical beasts, they were all filled with worship. That was because the demonic beasts that they had been fleeing for 2 days and 2 nights had been easily cut down by Yi Hao. Every time Yi Hao swung his sword, a magical beast would die. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. Only now did they realize how big the gap was between them and Yi Hao. After Yi Hao finished killing the magical beasts, he got back on the Green Wolf King's back and said to everyone, "Take all the corpses of the magical beasts and follow me." Everyone was nervous and uneasy because they couldn't tell if Yi Hao's tone was satisfied or dissatisfied. If Yi Hao was satisfied with their performance, then everything would be fine. If he wasn't, then they might miss the opportunity to join the first division and get good equipment. However, everyone still carried the corpses of the magical beasts very deftly and looked behind Yi Hao's butt. Even Mu Long followed behind Yi Hao nervously. When they reached the area where everyone was killing the magical beasts, the Green Wolf King suddenly stopped. Yi Hao turned around and looked at everyone quietly. No one dared to look Yi Hao in the eye. They all lowered their heads and waited for Yi Hao to speak. Your performance. Everyone's hearts were in their throats when they heard Yi Hao's words. Not bad. Everyone only heaved a sigh of relief when they heard Yi Hao's words. Eat the beast elixirs and blood first, Yi Hao ordered everyone. Everyone was stunned when they heard Yi Hao's order, but they quickly carried it out. There are still 2 more days. We should be able to complete the mission. Yi Hao looked at everyone who was recovering and cultivating. No, to be sure, let's prepare more beast elixirs first. Yi Hao thought for a moment and was still worried that these soldiers would not be able to complete the mission if their cultivation levels were not high enough. Green Wolf, protect them. I'll be right back. Yi Hao instructed the Green Wolf King before turning to leave. Seeing Yi Hao leave, many soldiers opened their eyes. Their eyes were filled with worry and fear. Clearly, they were afraid that Yi Hao would chase the demonic beasts back. However, when everyone saw that the Green Wolf King was here, they all heaved a sigh of relief. From the looks of it, the Green Wolf King had stayed behind to protect them. It looks like all the magical beasts in this area have been killed. Yi Hao couldn't help frowning after searching for a long time. Yi Hao could only continue forward. After walking for half a day, Yi Hao finally saw a magical beast. Yi Hao immediately raised his saber and charged forward. After all, time was precious. There were only 2 days left. He had to raise the average strength of these people to rank 8 Demon Guard. This was because once they reached rank 8 Demon Guard, he could use the pills rewarded by the system to raise the strength of everyone in the First Legion to rank 1 Demon Generals. 1,000 first-rank Demon Generals. Moreover, they were soldiers who had experienced the tempering of life and death. Their cooperation was incomparably terrifying. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for killing a demonic beast. 9 experience gained. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for killing a demonic beast. 8 experience gained. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for killing a demonic beast. 7 experience gained. Yi Hao began to madly slaughter the demonic beast. Gradually, he lost track of time. It was already night. However, Yi Hao still didn't intend to stop. He wanted to hunt more beast elixirs. That way, his chances of completing the mission would be higher. Yi Hao constantly changed his position and continued to kill the demonic beast. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for killing a demonic beast. 8 experience gained. Just as Yi Hao was about to change his direction, Yi Hao suddenly stopped in his tracks. That's strange. Why is there light? Logically speaking, it was related to the forest. Yi Hao didn't find it strange. What was strange was that Yi Hao saw a large patch of light not far away. Yi Hao didn't believe it. It was a hunting party. It was impossible for there to be so many people. As this place was close to the first city, Yi Hao couldn't help but be vigilant. Let's go over and take a look. Thinking of this, Yi Hao stealthily moved towards the spot of light. Haha, I didn't expect that I, Sun Yuan, would be so lucky. Not only did I hug a thigh, I'm also about to obtain a city for free. I even obtained a green leopard cub here. Sun Yuan laughed loudly. Sun Yuan was the city lord of a city force near the first city. His cultivation was at rank 1 Demon King. The power of Sun Yuan's city was 1 level higher than that of the first city. Furthermore, the difference between Sun Yuan's city and the Castle of the Kings was that the Sun family was the only family in Sun Yuan city. Furthermore, they had occupied Sun Yuan city for hundreds of years. The Sun family had their own private army. The Castle of the Kings, the predecessor of the first city, was merely one of their subordinate cities. Furthermore, it was a city that wasn't unified and its internal structure was extremely chaotic. Therefore, under normal circumstances, Sun Yuan wouldn't have paid any attention to the first city. However, he had received a mission this time and had no choice but to attack the first city. As long as he attacked the first city, he would be able to hug a thigh and obtain great benefit. His Sun family's power would increase once again. Similarly, he didn't pay any attention to the first city. After all, this time, he had brought along 2,000 elite soldiers with him. These 2,000 elite soldiers were all at the peak of the demon guards. They would definitely be able to sweep through the first city. Furthermore, he also had a small team of 200 military generals under his command. Therefore, even a peak Devil King powerhouse would be defeated by such a formation. However, what he didn't expect was that he would encounter a good thing. A demon emperor-level cyan leopard was about to lay eggs. The cyan leopard was at its weakest when it laid eggs. Although there was no beast tamer and it wasn't easy to tame an adult cyan leopard, it was very easy to tame a newborn cyan leopard. Moreover, a cyan leopard that had just given birth would have 1 out of 10 strength. Even if the cyan leopard was killed, it would still be very valuable. Moreover, as long as the cyan leopard grew up, it would reach the demon emperor level. To the Sun family, it would be equivalent to having another demon emperor expert. One must know that even he was only a first-order demon king and was the strongest person in the entire Sun Yuan city. If he could obtain the cyan leopard, the Sun family's power would increase by another level. Therefore, he temporarily gave up on attacking the first city and waited here for the cyan leopard to give birth to its baby. Sir City Lord, I heard that the city lord of the first city, Yi Hao, is extremely powerful. Does the city lord have any countermeasures? I also heard wrongly that Yi Hao actually killed the Grand Deacon of the Cloudpill sect. That Grand Deacon's cultivation was much higher than the city lord's. That's not all. I heard that there is a demon emperor level expert behind the first city. What demon emperor level? Is that true? Chapter 707. It was said that the great deacon of the Cloudpill sect was a 7th-order demon king, but he was killed instantly. Could it be a demon emperor? Hearing this, Sun Yuan frowned because this was exactly what he was worried about. However, he could only pray that the young master was not lying to him and that the elixir was really effective. What gave Sun Yuan confidence was that he had an elixir that could raise one's cultivation at 0 hour. It could raise one's cultivation to the Demon Emperor realm at 0 hour. Although this sounded shocking, he had no choice but to believe it when he thought of the power behind that person. However, he still held on to the hope that there was no Demon Emperor here and that those people were just exaggerating. Soldiers, don't worry. When the time comes, your goal is to massacre the first city. Leave the first city's powerhouses to me. Looking at the worried faces of the soldiers, Sun Yuan said, "Yes, Governor. We will annihilate the first city and leave no one alive." The soldiers swore solemnly when they heard Sun Yuan's words. After all, they were powerful. If it were not for the fact that they were afraid of the Demon Emperor powerhouses, they would not care about the first city at all. Based on their cooperation and power, a city like the first city would definitely be wiped out by them. So their target is my first city. Yi Hao frowned when he heard the conversation of the soldiers. However, Yi Hao was shocked when he saw the strength of the soldiers. 90% of them were peak demon guards while the remaining 10% were beginner demon generals. Given his current level of power, the first city was no match for him at all. Most importantly, although he was powerful, it was impossible for him to fight against 2,000 soldiers alone. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for obtaining an army mission. Use any army to kill Sun Yuan and the other two. Once the mission is completed, the host will receive an army growth gift pack. Just as Yi Hao was frowning, the system suddenly issued a mission. Accept. Yi Hao gritted his teeth and accepted the mission. This was because he realized that Sun Yuan seemed to be held back by something. As he was afraid of being discovered, he could not get too close to the front. However, as long as he was given a day to complete the First Legion's mission, relying on the system's reward, Sun Yuan's people would be like chickens and dogs to him. Yi Hao could only pray that Sun Yuan would stay here for a while and give him one more day. Yi Hao was still worried, so he released a green wolf to keep an eye on Sun Yuan while he quietly turned around and left. Yi Hao also stopped hunting magic beasts because he had enough beast blood and beast cores in his space. "My lord, you're back." Mu Long was the first to greet Yi Hao when he saw him return. "What's wrong, my lord?" Mu Long asked cautiously when he saw Yi Hao's frown. For some reason, the governor of Sun Yuan City has brought 2,000 troops to attack the first city. Yi Hao did not hide this matter. "What?" Mu Long's expression changed. He had long heard of Sun Yuanqing's prowess. Even the Wang family, who used to be the overlord of the Castle of the Kings, had to bow and scrape in front of Sun Yuanqing. They did not dare to offend him and had to provide him with large amounts of resources every year. However, he had heard that Sun Yuanqing's soldiers were all well trained and their strength had reached the peak of the Demon Guard's level. Although the First Legion had grown faster, it was still like throwing an egg against a rock when faced with Sun Yuanqing's people. "My lord, what should we do?" "Let's retreat. Where there's life, there's hope." Mu Long thought for a moment and decided to advise him. "No, it's easy for us to leave, but what about the first city? What about the people of the first city? What about the 100,000 soldiers? Do you think we can escape?" Yi Hao immediately rejected him. Yi Hao's words shocked Mu Long. As a member of the first city, he was naturally more unwilling than Yi Hao to see anything happen to the first city. Moreover, the people of the first city were completely helpless in the face of cultivators. Even though the Second Legion had 100,000 soldiers, which was a shocking number, each of them had just started and had become cultivators. Their strength was still very weak. Therefore, it would be easy for the First Legion to escape, but the remaining people would be in trouble. "My lord, what should we do then? Should we fight it out with them?" Mu Long looked at Yi Hao. "No, let the soldiers consume the beast elixirs first. In one day, try your best to raise everyone's strength by at least one level." Yi Hao took out a pile of beast elixirs and handed them to Mu Long. "One level? No problem?" Mu Long was clearly stunned when he received the beast elixirs from Yi Hao. With so many beast elixirs, raising the soldier's cultivation by one level was a piece of cake. However, what Mu Long did not understand was that even if everyone's cultivation increased by one level, what was the use? Even if everyone's cultivation increased by one level, their average strength would only be a level 8 demon guard. On the other hand, Sun Yuan's men were at least level 10 demon guards. The First Legion was still no match for them. However, seeing that Yi Hao did not say anything, Mu Long could not continue asking and could only hurriedly distribute the beast elixirs. After everyone received the beast elixirs, none of them dared to delay and started refining the beast elixirs with all their might. After a day of refining, everyone had broken through one by one. Yi Hao watched anxiously as some of the people who had yet to break through. Through his connection with Green Wolf, Yi Hao could sense that something had happened on Sun Yuan's side. It was possible that Sun Yuan was on his way. If Sun Yuan was really on his way, then all his efforts would have been in vain. Fortunately, just as Yi Hao was looking forward to it, the system's notification finally sounded. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for completing the First Legion's mission. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 2,000 Demon Guard upgrade elixirs and 1,000 Demon General upgrade elixirs. Phew! Yi Hao finally heaved a sigh of relief when he heard the system's voice. Yi Hao looked at the soldiers, and the soldiers looked back at him with a solemn expression. It was obvious that these soldiers also knew about the crisis that the first city was facing. Everyone, take these elixirs. Yi Hao did not waste any time and distributed the elixirs to everyone. Although everyone did not understand what kind of elixirs Yi Hao had given them, they knew that Yi Hao would not harm them. But everyone knew that Yi Hao absolutely would not harm them. One by one, they immediately swallowed the medicinal pills. Then, everyone's expressions changed drastically. They were shocked and overjoyed. At the same time, their voices were filled with confusion. I think I broke through 3 times in a row. Me too. I am now a level 1 demon general. I am also a level 1 demon guard. What kind of elixir did the Lord give us? It is so powerful. This is definitely a divine elixir. It can increase one's cultivation without refining. The Lord is really a god. Chapter 708. Change into your equipment and prepare for battle. Yi Hao waved his hand and took out all 1,000 sets of Demon General equipment. Everyone looked at the equipment greedily as if they had seen a beauty. After all, this was the equipment that they had been yearning for day and night. Not only was this set of equipment domineering, but it could also increase everyone's combat strength by several times. If they had been given the equipment previously, they would not have been able to kill the demonic beasts easily. At the very least, they would not have had to flee so pathetically. My lord, our strength is still too low to fully utilize this set of equipment. However, it will not be a problem for us to kill people 2 levels above us. Mu Long said after putting on the equipment and feeling it. Yi Hao nodded with satisfaction. If what Mu Long said was true, then the strength of the First Legion could reach level 3 Demon General. Yi Hao believed that the average strength of a level 3 Demon General would definitely be able to take on Sun Yuan. Soldiers, follow me. Yi Hao's idea was that instead of waiting for others to attack, they might as well take the initiative to attack and catch the enemy off guard. Yi Hao led the First Legion and set off in Sun Yuan's direction in a grandiose manner. To Yi Hao's surprise, there were sounds of fighting coming from Sun Yuan's direction. Yi Hao could not help but frown. He did not understand what was going on. You guys wait here first. I'll go and take a look, Yi Hao said to Mu Long and the rest. Then, he went up alone. Damn that green leopard. It's so cunning. It pretended to have just given birth to lure us into its trap. Looks like we've all been fooled by this beast. Damn it. If this goes on, we'll probably suffer heavy casualties before we reach the first city. Yi Hao listened to the soldiers' curses and looked at the target that more than 2,000 people were attacking. Yi Hao immediately used a detection skill. Green Leopard, just gave birth, weak stage current strength is level 3 Demon Emperor. However, it's exhausted and will die soon. It's a Demon Emperor level demonic beast. Yi Hao was shocked. He finally knew why Sun Yuan was guarding here. It turned out that Sun Yuan was here for the Azure Leopard's cubs. However, it was clear that Sun Yuan and the others had been deceived by the Green Leopard beast. At this moment, the Green Leopard beast was only strong on the outside but weak on the inside. It did not have much combat power at all. On the other hand, Sun Yuan and the others were intimidated by the Green Leopard's aura. Instead, they thought that the Green Leopard beast hadn't given birth to cubs. In fact, the Green Leopard beast had given birth to cubs. In order to protect the cubs, it wanted to scare Sun Yuan and the others away. Doesn't that mean that the Green Leopard cub is nearby? Yi Hao's eyes lit up. After all, it would be a Devil Emperor level Green Leopard. How could he not want a Devil Emperor level assistant for no reason? Yi Hao looked at the people fighting against the Green Leopard. Yi Hao scanned the surroundings and suddenly saw a small cave not far away. If I'm not mistaken, the leopard cubs should be here. Yi Hao sneaked over when no one was paying attention. Huff huff huff. After Yi Hao entered the cave, he saw a 20-centimeter-long creature lying on top of a pair of spiritual herbs. Yi Hao knew that this was the Green Leopard beast that had just been born. However, Yi Hao couldn't help but sigh at the Green Leopard beast's extravagance. Even the place where it slept wasn't made of ordinary grass. Instead, it was holding a pile of spiritual herbs of good quality. This was simply a waste of heavenly treasures. Looking at the Green Leopard cub, Yi Hao immediately used a contract technique. Ding dong! Congratulations to host for successfully contracting a demonic beast cub, Green Leopard beast. Green Leopard beast, infant stage, current cultivation, 8th Order Demon King. Looking at the Green Leopard beast's introduction, Yi Hao couldn't help but be shocked. This was just a cub, but its strength had already reached the 8th Order Demon King. One had to know that his current strength was only at the 8th Order Demon King. Didn't that mean that the Green Leopard beast's strength was on par with his? After the Green Leopard beast was contracted, it felt that Yi Hao was the closest person to it. Like a bolt of lightning, it pounced into Yi Hao's embrace. The Green Leopard beast rubbed its head against Yi Hao a few times before closing its eyes and going back to sleep. At the same time, the Green Leopard beast that was fighting with Sun Yuan's army outside suddenly looked towards the direction of the cave and roared loudly. At the same time, it tried to break out of the encirclement with all its might. Bastard, how dare you be so arrogant? Looking at the Green Leopard beast's appearance, Sun Yuan snorted coldly. Trap this bastard for me. We can't let it escape. Otherwise, our brothers would have died in vain. Sun Yuan said furiously. This was because the Green Leopard beast had killed close to 100 of his soldiers at the beginning. From this, one could see how terrifying the Green Leopard beast was. This made Sun Yuan's heart ache. Therefore, his hatred and killing intent towards the Green Leopard beast increased exponentially. Right now, he was relying on the combined attacks of the remaining soldiers to barely hold the Green Leopard beast back. Seeing the Green Leopard beast attacking with all its might, Sun Yuan mistakenly thought that the Green Leopard beast was trying to escape. However, he didn't know that the Green Leopard beast had discovered that Yi Hao had contracted a small Green Leopard beast. Being held back by Sun Yuan and his soldiers, the Green Leopard beast was enraged. It attacked Sun Yuan with all its might. Sun Yuan immediately retreated. He knew that he wasn't a match for the Green Leopard beast. Moreover, he couldn't use his life-saving trump card at this moment. Stop it! Sun Yuan ordered. Immediately, close to 100 soldiers rushed out to stop the Green Leopard beast's attack. However, the Green Leopard beast wasn't so easy to stop. Although the green leopard beast was in a weakened state, it still used all its remaining strength. Instantly, close to half of the 100 soldiers were killed or injured. "Kill this bastard!" Seeing so many of his soldiers die, Sun Yuan roared furiously. "Kill!" Hearing Sun Yuan's order, the soldiers attacked the green leopard beast again. After the previous attack, the green leopard beast was clearly much weaker than before. Therefore, many of the soldiers left many wounds on the green leopard beast's body. This gave Sun Yuan hope of killing the green leopard beast. "Continue attacking this bastard. When we return, I will reward you handsomely. The beauties of the first city are all yours to enjoy." Hearing Sun Yuan's words, the soldiers were all fired up and attacked the green leopard beast. Roar, roar! At this moment, the green leopard beast let out a powerful roar. At this moment, the small green leopard beast in Yi Hao's arms suddenly raised its head and looked outside the cave anxiously. At the same time, it looked at Yi Hao with pleading eyes. Seeing the pitiful look of the small green leopard beast, Yi Hao sighed. "Forget it. She is your mother after all. I will help her." Hearing Yi Hao's words, the small green leopard beast immediately stuck out its tongue and licked Yi Hao's arm to express its gratitude. Chapter 709. Attack. Upon hearing Yi Hao's command, the soldiers of the First Legion charged out under Mu Long's lead. "Who is it?" Hearing the sudden battle cries, Sun Yuan's expression changed as he looked at the 1,000 soldiers who rushed out. Where did these elite soldiers come from? Sun Yuan looked at the equipment of the First Legion. If he wasn't wrong, they were definitely demon general-grade equipment. Even Sun Yuanqing could only gather a little more than 100 sets of equipment of this level, and that was after paying a huge price for it. However, there were 1,000 sets of such equipment here, and all of them were brand new. The most important thing was that these people's cultivations had all reached the First Order Devil General. This caused Sun Yuan to be completely stunned. He had dominated this place for dozens of years, but he had never heard of such an elite force in any city. Sun Yuan panicked when he saw the First Legion charging towards his men. "Sir, is there a misunderstanding? Which city are you from?" Sun Yuan immediately looked at Yi Hao and was stunned. He realized that he didn't know Yi Hao at all. However, when Sun Yuan saw the green leopard beast in Yi Hao's arms, he was filled with envy and regret. Why didn't he go to the cave to check it out? In the end, the green leopard beast had been snatched by Yi Hao. He could ignore the green leopard beast for the time being, but he had to stop the First Legion from attacking his men. The soldiers on both sides were already engaged in battle. The soldiers that he had always been proud of were completely helpless against the First Legion's attack. These were Sun Yuan's elites, and he couldn't afford to lose any more of them. Otherwise, the Sun family's position in Sun Yuanqing might be at risk. Furthermore, he still had to attack the first city. If these soldiers were all killed, what else could he use to attack the first city? In Sun Yuan's opinion, Yi Hao was definitely a disciple of some big family. However, he definitely wasn't someone he could afford to offend. After all, he had brought 1,000 fully equipped demon generals with him in this forest. He reckoned that only a disciple of a big family would be able to take out such a large army. "I'm the governor of the first city, Yi Hao." Yi Hao looked at Sun Yuan and said with a smile. Seeing Yi Hao's smile, Sun Yuan could clearly sense the killing intent hidden in Yi Hao's smile. At the same time, he was completely shocked. The first city? How could the first city possibly have so many elite soldiers? Sun Yuan's first thought was disbelief. Sun Yuan refused to believe that the first city could have so many elite soldiers. If the first city really has so many elite soldiers, the castle of the kings of the past would not have been trampled under my feet. There was only one explanation, and that was that these soldiers were all created by Yi Hao. Who on earth is he? Sun Yuan now believed that Yi Hao had brought these soldiers to the first city at the same time. He did not believe that Yi Hao would be able to train such elite troops in a short period of over 10 days. Governor Yi, is there a misunderstanding between us? Why are you ordering your soldiers to attack my men? Sun Yuan could only plead. Yi Hao was unaware of his intentions. After all, his heart was bleeding as he watched his soldiers die one by one. I can't stand the sight of you. Yi Hao stared at Sun Yuan with a sneer. If he had not heard Sun Yuan say that he wanted to attack the first city with his own ears, he might have been deceived by Sun Yuan. That innocent expression and tone of voice. However, Yi Hao was aware of Sun Yuan's intentions. That was enough for him, and he could not be bothered to say anything else to Sun Yuan. You! Sun Yuan was almost driven mad by Yi Hao's words. However, when he saw that Yi Hao was not going to stop, there was nothing he could do about Yi Hao. You've forced me to do this. Sun Yuan scanned his surroundings and did not discover any powerful cultivators, so he decided to attack Yi Hao. In order to be absolutely safe, Sun Yuan prepared to consume a pill. He had already secretly grabbed the pill in his hand. You and I. 10,000 beast spiritual fire. Seeing Sun Yuan's state, Yi Hao knew that he was up to no good. Without hesitation, he threw the 10,000 beast spiritual fire at Sun Yuan. However, before Sun Yuan could finish his sentence, he sensed a dangerous aura from the 10,000 beast spiritual fire. However, before he could escape, the 10,000 beast spiritual fire had already landed on his body. Hiss ah! When the 10,000 beast spiritual fire landed on Sun Yuan's body, it was as if gasoline had been poured on him. Sun Yuan instantly turned into a man of flames, and he screamed in pain. Governor! Many people in Sun Yuan's city were shocked when they saw this scene. After all, Sun Yuan was the strongest cultivator among them. He was their pillar of support. Now that Sun Yuan was about to be burned to death, they did not know what to do. Brat, if you kill me, you won't have a good ending. You offended someone you shouldn't have. Sun Yuan roared with resentment. How dare a dead person speak so arrogantly? Yi Hao sneered. We don't want to fight anymore. We surrender. The governor is already dead. What's the point of fighting? Young master, please show mercy. After seeing Sun Yuan's death, most of the soldiers in Sun Yuan's city were recruited by Sun Yuan. They were not loyal to Sun Yuan. After all, they should look forward. They could not lose their lives for a dead person. Moreover, they had only become Sun Yuan's subordinates so that they could live a better life. Now that Sun Yuan was dead, their loyalty to Sun Yuan had naturally disappeared. Kill all of Sun Yuan's direct subordinates and relatives. Escort the rest back to the first city. Yi Hao instructed Mu Long when he saw that Sun Yuan's subordinates were no longer able to fight. Yes, my lord. Mu Long immediately obeyed the order. As for the subordinates who were not Sun Yuan's direct subordinates and relatives, they quickly knelt on the ground and surrendered. As for Sun Yuan's direct subordinates and relatives, their faces were all pale. Usually, they used Sun Yuan's name to be superior to others and bully others as they wished. However, they had never imagined that because of Sun Yuan, they would lose their chance to live. In the end, Sun Yuan's subordinates were killed by the Green Leopard Beast. Apart from the Green Leopard Beast and the First Legion, Yi Hao captured more than 1,200 people. These people were all peak demon guards. Yi Hao believed that with a little training, they would definitely become a great fighting force. However, the loyalty of these people still needed to be trained. Otherwise, Yi Hao would not dare to use them. After all, an ant's nest could cause the collapse of a 1,000-mile dike. He definitely could not act recklessly in this army. If some traitorous spies were to sneak in, the damage to him would definitely be fatal. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for completing the mission of eliminating Sun Yuan. You have received a Legion Growth Gift Pack. When he heard the system's notification, Yi Hao did not pay attention to it. This was because the adult green leopard beast had been watching him since the beginning. Chapter 7:10. Ever since Yi Hao appeared, the green leopard beast's gaze had been fixed on Yi Hao. At the same time, it looked nervously at the green leopard cub in Yi Hao's arms. The green leopard cub licked Yi Hao's arm affectionately. In a flash, it ran to the green leopard beast's feet and rubbed its head against the green leopard beast. Only then did the green leopard beast retract its gaze from Yi Hao. Its eyes were filled with motherly love as it licked the green leopard cub. No one knew what the green leopard beast said to the green leopard cub. After taking one last look at Yi Hao, it turned and left. The green leopard cub looked reluctant to part with it. Seeing the green leopard beast leave, Yi Hao picked up the green leopard cub and did not stop it. Firstly, he was no match for the green leopard beast. Secondly, the green leopard cub was already his pet. It was not appropriate for him to attack the green leopard cub. "Let's go back." Seeing that the green leopard beast had disappeared, Yi Hao said, "Is that the First Legion? When did they change their equipment? Look at the bloodstains on their bodies. They look like they just went through a battle." "Yeah, they seem to have captured captives. The equipment of these captives looks familiar. They look like Sun Yuanqing's men?" Yi Hao's return to the city with the First Legion naturally attracted the attention of countless people. Everyone was talking about it. Yi Hao walked to the top of the city wall. Gathering his strength, he said, "The governor of Sun Yuanqing, Sun Yuan, did not know what was good for him. He invaded the first city and has been beheaded. In the next few days, I will send troops to subdue Sun Yuanqing. The heads of Sun Yuan and his men will be hung on the city wall for 3 days as a warning to others." After Yi Hao finished speaking, the soldiers immediately hung the decapitated heads on the city wall. "What? Sun Yuanqing attacked the first city? Why didn't we receive any news? Sun Yuanqing has always been on top of us. Moreover, they have many soldiers and generals. Even the governor was killed? I've seen Sun Yuan. He was arrogant and condescending. That head is really Sun Yuan's. I want to know how powerful the Lord is. He actually killed Sun Yuan. It looks like the first city is really going to have to rise to the top." At this moment, everyone looked at the hundreds of heads on the city wall and were extremely shocked. At the same time, there were also quite a few people who looked at the head on the city wall with fear in their eyes. Then, they turned around and left anxiously. It was obvious that they were spies from other factions. After all, there were so many forces in the surrounding cities. It was normal for each force to place spies in other cities for the sake of their own development. Just like Yi Hao, he almost didn't discover Sun Yuan's attack because he didn't set up any spies. "Master, you actually killed Sun Yuan?" At this moment, the white dragon walked over with a group of family heads. These family heads usually managed the affairs of the city and helped Yi Hao a lot. However, Yi Hao strictly forbade them from interfering with the military. "This time, I was training my troops in the forest when I suddenly saw Sun Yuan leading his troops to surround and annihilate the first city. Naturally, I annihilated them," Yi Hao said. However, while Yi Hao spoke casually, all the family heads were shocked. At the same time, they were filled with admiration for Yi Hao. This was because they knew very well how powerful Sun Yuanqing was. Previously, the castle of the kings had always been suppressed by Sun Yuanqing. These family heads had contributed a lot to the Sun family. Furthermore, Sun Yuan had established his own army. This was something that these people couldn't compare to. Their people were nothing more than guards formed by the clan's disciples. On the other hand, Sun Yuan's people were a real army. Moreover, from the looks of it, Sun Yuan had only brought 2,000 people this time. They were obviously Sun Yuanqing's elites. However, almost half of Sun Yuanqing's elites had been killed by Yi Hao. The rest had been captured by him. Everyone was wondering how Yi Hao had done it. At this moment, everyone realized that the members of the First Legion standing behind Yi Hao had all changed into new equipment. Looking at the equipment of the First Legion, everyone could tell that their equipment wasn't inferior to that of the Second Legion. As the White Dragon checked everyone's cultivation level, his expression changed. How is this possible? Family head Bai, what's wrong? Seeing the White Dragon's strange expression, many family heads asked softly. Look at their cultivation level. The White Dragon suppressed the shock in his heart and said to everyone. Everyone listened to the White Dragon and their expressions changed drastically. Is this still the First Legion? Everyone had the same question in their hearts. They knew that Yi Hao's First Legion had been recruited in the first city. At that time, all of them had been present personally. At that time, the strongest person in the First Legion had been a demon general. Moreover, there had only been a dozen demon generals back then. However, now, the 1,000 people in the First Legion were all at the demon general level. If this had taken longer, they would have been able to accept it. However, it had only been a dozen days since Yi Hao had established the First Legion. Looking at the First Legion, everyone stood behind Yi Hao with a murderous aura. Everyone couldn't help but call Yi Hao a freak. After all, the 10 generals were a bunch of stragglers and their strength was uneven. They were basically around the 5th or 6th level demon guards. To directly raise their cultivation level to the demon general level, and each of them had an extraordinary aura and became disciplined. How many people could do this? Even if they were given 3 years, they wouldn't be able to train such a legion. This was because raising the cultivation level of a small number of people was considered easy. However, they definitely couldn't raise the cultivation level of 1,000 people like Yi Hao. Otherwise, this was why Sun Yuan was so powerful. He had dominated for so many years and forcibly seized so many resources. In the end, he only had a little more than 200 demon generals under his command. My lord, there's something fishy about Sun Yuan's invasion. The White Dragon thought for a moment and said, What do you mean? In fact, Yi Hao also found it strange because from eavesdropping on Sun Yuan's words, he could tell that Sun Yuan's target this time was him. However, he had only dominated the first city for a few days. Even if Sun Yuan had received the news, there was no grudge between them. However, there was no enmity between the two of them. There was no need for Sun Yuan to bring 2,000 elites to attack him. Moreover, from Sun Yuan's words, it seemed like someone behind Sun Yuan had instructed him to do so. However, Yi Hao had some guesses as to who this person was. He hadn't offended anyone in the ancient demon domain. If there was anyone, it would be either the Black Sword sect or the Cloudpill sect. However, Yi Hao felt that it wasn't very likely. After all, with the strength of the Black Sword sect and the Cloudpill sect, if they really wanted to deal with him, there was no need to go through so much trouble. They could just send 2 experts over. Chapter 711. The White Dragon's thoughts were more or less the same as Yi Hao's. In his opinion, if the Black Sword sect and the Cloudcore sect wanted to deal with Yi Hao, they would definitely do it themselves and not borrow the hands of others. My lord, have you offended anyone else? The White Dragon asked cautiously. After all, he believed that Sun Yuan would never do anything without benefit. He would never go to war and attack the first city for no reason. Since he had eliminated the Black Sword sect and the Cloudcore sect, the White Dragon didn't know who else. He could only ask Yi Hao. Yi Hao shook his head and instructed the White Dragon, Uncle White, go and investigate. Interrogate those captives and find out who the mastermind is. Yi Hao wouldn't be afraid if it was an enemy out in the open. However, Yi Hao was most annoyed by enemies who hid in the dark and attacked him. This kind of enemy was like a venomous snake in the night. They would attack you when you were in danger and give you a fatal blow that you couldn't defend against. Yes. The White Dragon also heard the seriousness in Yi Hao's tone and immediately nodded in agreement. Just as the white dragon was about to leave, he suddenly said to Yi Hao, "My lord, you haven't rested well for more than 10 days. Why don't you come to the Bai family and rest for a while? Your mansion is still under construction and it will take some time before it is completed." "Thank you, Uncle White." Yi Hao nodded and thanked him. After more than 10 days, he should have a good rest. He also needed to take a shower and change into a clean set of clothes. Most importantly, Yi Hao missed Bai Yuner after more than 10 days. "Big brother Yi Hao, where have you been these past few days?" Yi Hao had just arrived at the Bai family when he saw Bai Yuner walking up to him. "I've been training the First Legion these past few days." Yi Hao didn't hide anything and replied directly. "I asked the kitchen to prepare some dishes. Let's go eat now." Bai Yuner nodded and asked Yi Hao. Yi Hao rubbed his stomach. Because the laws were different, Yi Hao no longer felt hungry on the Myriad Kingdom continent. However, when he arrived at the ancient demon domain, the feeling of hunger appeared once again. However, Yi Hao did not reject food. Even in the past, when he was in the Myriad Kingdom continent, he didn't feel hungry. When he wanted to eat, he would still eat something. Now that he heard Bai Yuner say this, he really did feel hungry. "Big brother Yi Hao, these are the demonic beasts you sent back. I asked the kitchen to make them. They will definitely be helpful to your cultivation." When Yi Hao and Bai Yuner arrived at the dining table, they realized that the table was already filled with dishes. As if they knew that Yi Hao loved meat, there was not a single vegetarian dish on the table. Before Yi Hao could sit down, a fragrance assailed his nostrils. However, Yi Hao could tell that the chef who made this dish must be good at cooking. This was because the most taboo thing to do when making these demonic beasts was to lose the power inside. And these dishes in front of him had tried their best to preserve the power inside the meat. It could be seen that the chef had put in a lot of effort. "Don't just stand there, let's eat together." Seeing Bai Yuner standing at the side, Yi Hao said with a smile. Hearing Bai Yuner's words, Bai Yuner sat down with a smile on her face. What's wrong?" Yi Hao looked at Bai Yuner, who had a reserved expression and wanted to say something but stopped. Yi Hao asked curiously. "Big brother Yi Hao, I'm leaving," Bai Yuner said with some reluctance in her eyes. "Leaving? Where are you going? Isn't this your home?" Hearing Bai Yuner's words, Yi Hao put his chopsticks back on the table and asked with a frown. For some reason, hearing Bai Yuner's words made Yi Hao panic. A feeling of reluctance immediately welled up in his heart. "I'm going to the royal city," Bai Yuner said. "Go to the royal city?" Yi Hao was still in a state of confusion about the distribution of power in this world, so Yi Hao looked at Bai Yuner with a puzzled expression. Hearing Bai Yuner's description, Yi Hao finally understood what was going on. It turned out that the sphere of influence he was in was the power of a kingdom. And this kingdom had its own academy, which specialized in cultivating future talents for the kingdom. This academy was similar to a sect, but there was also a difference between them. This was because sects were basically private forces mixed with interest. There was no superior or subordinate relationship between them and the kingdom. On the other hand, the academy belonged to the kingdom's own forces and belonged to the king of the kingdom. Therefore, an ordinary academy was not inferior to a sect. And the academy Bai Yuner wanted to go to was the Tianyuan Academy of the Tianyuan Kingdom. Bai Yuner's growth in the Bai family was limited, and she wanted to join a sect, but she had been troubled by her inability to do so. She had signed up for the Tianyuan Academy a year ago, but a year had passed and she had already given up. Unexpectedly, she had received a notice from the Tianyuan Academy recently, and Bai Yuner did not want to waste this opportunity. After all, only by entering the academy could she learn cultivation techniques that were suitable for her, obtain resources, and grow quickly. Moreover, seeing Yi Hao's rapid growth, she was secretly anxious because she realized that she was increasingly unable to catch up with Yi Hao's footstep. Therefore, she was now eager to trick him. Moreover, according to her father's analysis, Yi Hao was definitely a person with great ambitions. For the sake of his ambition, he would definitely fight for the world. Therefore, Bai Yuner also wanted to help Yi Hao. However, she was too weak and could only be a burden to Yi Hao at the moment. But once she entered the academy, it would be different. As long as she entered the academy, if she was lucky, she would be able to grow quickly and help Yi Hao. Upon hearing Bai Yuner's words, Yi Hao wanted to stop her, but he realized that he did not know how to say it. This was because Bai Yuner also had her own ideas, and he definitely could not influence Bai Yuner's thoughts. Moreover, even if he kept Bai Yuner by his side, he was currently unable to help Bai Yuner grow. On the contrary, if he allowed Bai Yuner to go, she might encounter an opportunity that belonged to her. However, Yi Hao's reluctance in his heart made his mood instantly become heavy. When are you leaving? Yi Hao asked. I will be leaving in 3 days, because it will take a long journey to reach the capital. Bai Yuner's eyes turned slightly red as she said this. Yi Hao nodded and did not say anything else. He did not even know how he managed to finish this meal. He only knew that this meal was as tasteless as if he was chewing on wax. For the remaining 3 days, Yi Hao did not do anything else. Instead, he accompanied Bai Yuner to shop and chat. However, parting always came so quickly. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Chapter 7:12. For me. Bai Yuner looked at the space ring that Yi Hao handed over in surprise. One had to know that this space ring was extremely precious in the ancient demon realm. Even the entire Bai family did not have a single space ring. At this moment, the white dragon was also looking enviously at the ring in Bai Yuner's hand. One had to know that the higher the level of the world, the more difficult it was to refine space-type equipment. In the 10,000 Kingdoms continent, space-type equipment was not considered rare. However, in the ancient demon realm, some of the levels were too low and simply lost their use. Fortunately, Yi Hao had the system space, so it didn't matter to him whether he had a space ring or not. The space ring that Yi Hao gave Bai Yuner was obtained by killing Chief Deacon Zhang. In this space ring, there were some elixirs refined by Yi Hao, as well as the spirit coins that Chief Deacon Zhang had saved. Yi Hao did not take them out and handed them all to Bai Yuner. Even Chief Deacon Zhang's low-grade sword, King Bing Demon Sword, was not taken out by Yi Hao. Yi Hao believed that Bai Yuner would be able to use it. After Bai Yuner saw the space ring, she quickly waved her hand and refused. Big brother Yi Hao, this is too precious. I can't accept it. I'm giving it to you, so take it. Take good care of yourself. Yi Hao did not allow Bai Yuner to refuse and directly put the ring on Bai Yuner's hand. Thank you, big brother Yi Hao. Bai Yuner did not dare to refuse again when she saw Yi Hao's serious expression. Big brother Yi Hao, I will miss you. Remember to come and see me when you have time. Bai Yuner said mischievously in order to ease the awkwardness of their separation. Unexpectedly, Yi Hao nodded solemnly. Don't worry, I will come and see you soon. It's a deal. Bai Yuner did not expect that Yi Hao would agree to her casual request. She was afraid that Yi Hao would go back on his word. It's a deal. After Yi Hao finished speaking, he could not help but think of ZMO. He could not help but remind Bai Yuner to help him keep an eye out for any news of ZMO. After all, looking for a person in the ancient demon domain was like looking for a needle in a haystack. However, Yi Hao had no other choice. He could only search like this and not let go of any opportunity. For Bai Yuner's safety, Yi Hao lent the Green Wolf King to Bai Yuner. Although the strength of the Green Wolf King was no longer of much use to him at this point in time, he was still able to defeat the Green Wolf King. In any case, the Green Wolf King had the cultivation of a demon lord. For Bai Yuner, who was a demon guard, it was still a good bodyguard. Thank you, big brother Yi Hao. This time, Bai Yuner did not refuse. Instead, she said gratefully. After all, the road ahead was long. It was impossible for Bai Yuner not to be afraid of going to the capital alone. However, with the Green Wolf King as her companion, there was no doubt that she would be much safer. I don't have any space equipment to store magical beasts. Yuner, when the time comes, you can sell some elixirs and buy one. Bai Yuner was not like him. Because he was the owner of the Green Wolf King and had the system, he could summon the Green Wolf King into the pet space. However, it was impossible for Bai Yuner to keep the Green Wolf King by her side all the time. Therefore, she could only buy a piece of equipment to store the Green Wolf King. However, the price of this kind of equipment should not be cheap. Yi Hao believed that with the spirit coins in Deacon Zhang's space, it should not be a problem to buy such an equipment. Yes, yes. Bai Yuner immediately nodded. In the end, Bai Yuner said goodbye to the White Dragon and rode the Green Wolf King away. Yi Hao looked at Bai Yuner's back until she disappeared. Then, he walked back to the city. Yi Hao believed that sooner or later, he would go to Sky King's capital. After all, he wanted to conquer the ancient demon area. Sky King's capital would naturally be a target for him to conquer. However, right now, he had to conquer Sun Yuanqing first. After all, the current Sun Yuanqing was already ownerless. If it was snatched away by someone with ulterior motives, it wouldn't be good if something happened. After returning to the Bai Manor, Yi Hao looked at the White Dragon and asked, "Uncle White, how is the investigation going?" The White Dragon stopped thinking about his daughter and said, "I interrogated everyone strictly. However, I did not find out who ordered Sun Yuan to do this." That's strange. The White Dragon's words made Yi Hao frown. He did not expect that Sun Yuan's subordinates would not be able to find out anything. "Uncle White, prepare to take over Sun Yuanqing," Yi Hao said to the White Dragon. "Master, are you going to make a move on Sun Yuanqing? Don't you need to prepare?" The White Dragon asked with some pills. Although Sun Yuanqing, the Castellan, and the elites had been destroyed. However, the remaining power of the Sun family could not be underestimated. According to his understanding, the Sun family had at least 7,000 to 8,000 people left on the surface. The White Dragon would definitely be worried if Yi Hao rashly attacked without any preparation. "It's fine. Give me 10,000 people from the Second Legion. I will take the First Legion with me." Yi Hao's tone was firm. Even Sun Yuan himself had been destroyed. How could he be afraid of the remaining power of Sun Yuanqing? "Uncle White, after I leave, bring another group of people and help me take over Sun Yuanqing." "Yes." Hearing Yi Hao's order, the White Dragon immediately obeyed. At this moment, Yi Hao remembered that he had killed Sun Yuan and obtained the Legion Growth Gift Pack. It had not been opened yet. "System, help me open the gift pack." Yi Hao immediately said to the system. "Ding dong, congratulations to the host for obtaining 100,000 Demon General Aptitude Pills, 100,000 Demon General Strengthening Pills, 100,000 Demon Guard Upgrade Pills. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1,000 Demon General Upgrade Pills." That's a lot. Even though Yi Hao had been prepared, he was still stunned. He had not expected that the Legion Growth Gift Pack would be so big. Disregarding everything else, just the 100,000 Demon Guard leveling pills were enough to raise every soldier of the Second Legion by 1 level. However, Yi Hao knew that good steel should be used where the blade was. If these 100,000 Demon General Upgrade pills were given to every soldier in the Second Legion, it would not have much of an effect. However, if these 100,000 Demon General Upgrade pills were given to 10,000 people, the effect would naturally be different. It would instantly increase the number of peak demon guards by 10,000. Furthermore, Yi Hao did not intend to give these 1,000 Demon General Upgrade pills to every soldier in the First Legion. He also wanted to choose 100 people and raise these 100 people to the peak Demon General level first. Yi Hao first distributed the strengthening pills and aptitude pills. This was because at the very least, everyone's potential could be raised from the peak demon guard to the peak demon general level. Then, Yi Hao selected 10,000 soldiers and distributed the demon guard upgrade pills. However, what surprised Yi Hao was that these 100,000 demon general upgrade pills were not used up. This was because the strength of most people had reached the first or second stage of the demon guard because of the demon guard strengthening pills and the aptitude pills. Chapter 7:13. Yi Hao wasn't in a hurry to use the 20,000 leveling pills. After all, the 10,000 peak demon guards were enough for him. Furthermore, the soldiers were all at the first and second level of the demon guards, so it was easy for them to break through. Moreover, they had taken the demon general aptitude pills and strengthening pills. It would be easier for the soldiers to break through. Usually, it would be more difficult to break through later. Therefore, Yi Hao planned to keep the 20,000 leveling pills for the soldiers who had difficulties breaking through. In the end, Yi Hao gave the demon general leveling pills to the soldiers of the First Legion. Yi Hao also took out 100 people, no more, no less. As for the remaining pills, Yi Hao also kept them. "Let's go," Yi Hao ordered the soldiers. Then, the 1,000 soldiers of the First Legion surrounded Yi Hao, while the 10,000 soldiers followed closely behind. The 11,000 soldiers were all dressed in bright and beautiful equipment and looked very imposing. Among the crowd, there were also dozens of large flags that were very eye-catching. The name of the first city was embroidered on the large flags in a flamboyant style. At this moment, everyone in the first city felt their blood boil when they saw this scene. They had never thought that one day, their city would have such a powerful army. This was especially so when their loved ones were among this group of lions. This made them feel extremely proud. It looks like the first city's territory will be expanded again. The Lord is really powerful. In just half a month, he managed to train such a strong army. It looks like our good days are really coming. No one doubted that the strong army led by Yi Hao would be able to wipe out Sun Yuanqing. Each and every one of them sent off the army, their faces brimming with smiles. In the beginning, when everyone heard that Yi Hao was going to fight Sun Yuanqing, many of them expressed their worries. However, when they saw the army's imposing manner, everyone believed from the bottom of their hearts that Yi Hao would definitely be able to destroy Sun Yuanqing. On the other hand, the rest of the Second Legion looked at the soldiers enviously. They had become cultivators with great difficulty, and they really wanted to fight for the first city on the battlefield and expand their territory. "Brothers, although we can't go to war, we still have to guard our territory. Our responsibility is still great, so brothers, work hard to cultivate." He looked at the envious soldiers of the Second Legion. At this moment, King Kong's strength had also been raised to the peak of the demon general realm by Yi Hao. The Vajra King's position was to temporarily act as the commander of the Second Legion. Even though the King Kong wasn't strong enough, he was still a powerful being in the Myriad Kingdom continent. He had experienced a lot of things. Therefore, the Vajra King had no problem training these soldiers. As for cultivation, with Yi Hao's cultivation techniques, the soldiers would not encounter any bottleneck. There was no need for the King of Vajra to teach them. Therefore, the Vajra King obeyed Yi Hao's instructions, mainly to build up the tacit understanding between the soldiers. Although their improvement was not as terrifying as the First Legion, at least they now knew that their cooperation was not like before, where they only cared about themselves. Furthermore, with the Vajra King's restrictions, the Second Legion was considered disciplined. None of the soldiers dared to make any mistakes. Therefore, the soldiers believed in the Vajra King. Therefore, when they heard the Vajra King's words, the soldiers immediately went to train. The Vajra King stood on the spot, admiration for Yi Hao rising spontaneously in his heart. "How long has it been and your majesty already has such power? Comparisons are odious. What a freak!" The Vajra king recalled that when he first entered the ancient demon realm, he was just a lowly figure. On the other hand, Yi Hao had occupied a city not long after he arrived in the ancient demon realm and had 100,000 soldiers under his command. Most importantly, these 100,000 soldiers had all turned from ordinary people into cultivators. Needless to say, they were loyal to Yi Hao. If one were to ask who everyone in the first city admired the most, it would undoubtedly be Yi Hao. Moreover, he only used a few elixirs to raise his cultivation from the 6th order demon guard to the peak of the demon general realm. When he first came to the ancient demon realm, it took him nearly 100 years to break through to the next order. On the other hand, Yi Hao could make him break through more than a dozen orders in an instant. The Vajra king finally realized that it was not a loss for him to die at Yi Hao's hands back then. He still vaguely remembered that when he first met Yi Hao, he did not take Yi Hao seriously at all. At this moment, he could not catch up to Yi Hao at all. The Vajra king knew that if Yi Hao was allowed to grow, the ancient demon realm would probably be subdued by Yi Hao sooner or later. This was because Yi Hao's growth was simply too fast. He did not doubt that Yi Hao was the reincarnation of some great god. At this moment, a look of determination flashed in the Vajra king's eyes. He must follow Yi Hao closely. Only then could he follow Yi Hao to conquer the world and laugh proudly at the world. Otherwise, he was destined to be eliminated. The Vajra king immediately took out the cultivation method that Yi Hao had given him and began to find a place to cultivate diligently. On the way to Sun Yuanqing, Yi Hao was a little worried and said to the system, "The system has summoned me." This summoning quota was a reward from the system after he had subdued the castle of the kings and completed the mission. However, Yi Hao had never used it. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the peak demon emperor Yan Liang. It's Yan Liang. Hearing the system's prompt, Yi Hao nodded. Perhaps in the history of Huaxia, Yan Liang's martial strength was not among the best. However, in the ancient demon realm, it depended on one's strength and realm. In the history of Huaxia, Yan Liang was killed by Guan Yu. However, if Yan Liang and Guan Yu were to be together now, Guan Yu would definitely be defeated by Yan Liang in one move. This was the difference between their realms. After all, Guan Yu's current strength was at level 4 of the ultimate martial god realm, which corresponded to level 4 of the demon guards. On the other hand, Yan Liang was already at the peak of the demon emperor realm. Moreover, Yan Liang's cultivation was at the peak of the demon emperor realm, which was enough for Yi Hao to use. After all, the strongest enemy that Yi Hao had encountered so far was only a demon king powerhouse. However, if the two of them were to be at the same realm, Yan Liang would definitely not be able to defeat Guan Yu. "Who's there?" At this moment, Mu Long shouted from the front. "I'm Yan Liang. I've heard that young Master Yi Hao has conquered the first city, so I'm here to seek refuge." At this moment, a burly man's voice was heard. Hearing Yan Liang's voice, Yi Hao realized that the system's summoning reward seemed to have changed. Yi Hao was curious that he was still summoning mortal generals from history. He had not summoned any immortals yet. Yi Hao was thinking about the mission that the system had given him in the past. After he had unified the world of 10,000 kingdoms, he could summon all the generals on Earth. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.